Hello and welcome to Le Mans. For the first ever Le Mans Esports Super Final, we're at the home of endurance racing and we have got an endurance race coming up. Over 20 hours, we'll have competitors competing over the next 24 hours, hoping to get the top place on that amazing podium here at Le Mans. Now, 20,000 competitors tried to make their way here over the last few months, but only 36 places were up for grabs. So 36 places, 12 teams, all fighting for a prize pot of around exactly $100,000. And we've got people from all over the world, loads and loads of different nations, including the United Kingdom. We've got Germany, we've got France, China, Japan, the Americas. We have America, we have Canada, we also have Mexico, and quite a lot more too. And we have got commentators from all over the world, including Chris McCarthy from the UK. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Brent.
And Bo, hello to you as well. Bo from Australia.
Hello, hello.
So, Bo, you've had a fair bit of a trip to go. We'll come to you in just a second. But Chris, what's it like to be here at Le Mans?
It's an amazing experience. You know, since I was a kid, I've always wanted to come to Le Mans. I'm sure that's the same for the drivers as well. They get to race here. Of course, we get to do something a little bit different. But the atmosphere all week has been incredible. Yeah,
we arrived on Tuesday. First time either of us have been here at Le Mans, and it was quite striking at how quiet Le Mans is on the lead up to the 24-hour race, and then how crazy it gets as you approach race day.
Yeah, it might be quiet, but when those cars get out there, it is incredibly loud. It's a lot louder than I expected, actually. It's just been an amazing atmosphere. We couldn't be in a better place to hold such a fantastic event.
Absolutely. Now, Bo, bit more of a trek for you. Australia to here, what, 36 hours travel, was it?
It was quite a fair bit in the end, so it was 24 hours on the flight, and then we had a train trip here, so definitely quite the journey, but it's all been worth it. The event has been above my expectations.
So, overall, being here is something that you wouldn't miss for the world, and all that travel was worth it?
Absolutely, it's an amazing event. Everyone has done an awesome job to make it the best it can be, and there's so much to see, so much to do, even off the track, so I'm very lucky to be here.
So what are your thoughts on what we've seen around in this very building, this very room, from the competitors that have come from all over the world? I mentioned that we have drivers from all over the world, all four corners of the globe have come here, so we've got quite a lot of different issues going on.
There's a lot of little details that come in with that. So we have 12 different nationalities in total, which means there's a bit of a language barrier for a few teams. Some have never met each other before today either. So for these teams, it's all about learning how each other works and how to best get the best out of yourselves. So it's going to be interesting to see how they all adapt, but then you've got the different rigs. A lot of these use different hardware at home, so it's a lot different to these amazing Thrustmaster rigs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got competitors with language barriers, so they're using certain apps and translators on their phones to talk to each other. They've got their strategies, but there's also 9 different races over the next 24 hours, and each race has got its own little unique aspect.
Yeah, we're going to go on a journey through Le Mans history. That's the incredible thing about this. We're going to start in the 60s with an incredible battle, of course, between Ford versus Ferrari, and we're going to go all the way to the modern prototype cars as well, where Audi and Porsche were, of course, in a credible battle in recent years. So we're going to be driving all sorts of different cars from all sorts of different eras of Le Mans, and they're going to have to adapt each time we move through the years. And for me, that's the most incredible thing about this. I find that fascinating about the event, that they have to jump into all these different cars in the space of 24 hours.
Yeah, and the cars work very, very differently from each other. Even on a sim like this as well, we see that the earlier cars, they're a bit more wallowy, they move around a fair bit, much harder to control.
Absolutely, we saw in practice there was actually quite a lot of drivers in those early 60s cars, even something like the Group 5 cars, that were actually finding themselves losing brake markers, and then they have to quickly adapt as well, just a couple of minutes later into a prototype. There's a lot of adaptability, a lot of different driving styles the drivers have to use and utilize to get that overall lap time. Yeah,
and to make it even harder, we have teams of 3 drivers, and they have limits on how much time they can spend in the seat over the 20.5 hours of racing. So they have to have a really, really strong strategy. We have some drivers that are really good in one form of car, not so good in another, so you really have to work it out, don't they?
Yeah, well, they would have practiced the strategy for a long, long time. Of course, a good thing that we have to remember is that we have teams that are individual qualifiers, so they've qualified individually in their region, and then this is the first time they're coming together. But then we also have teams that have come through as a team, so it's 6 individual teams versus 6 teams. And it would be interesting to see how that compares. Of course, some of the 6 individual teams have actually been really, really quick and have got a really good strategy, but this is when they're going to be put to the test. Now we're going into the race. This could give the teams a bit of an advantage, but of course the 6 individual teams I think would beg to differ.
Yeah, now we're going to show in just a few moments the VT of how they all got here, but before we do, qualifying yesterday. So we had 6 hours 45 minutes of qualifying, 9 sessions, 45 minutes long, and all over that time, 6 hours 45 minutes, the way it worked was every single qualifying time we took the best lap from each team in that qualifying time, cumulative effect there. The one with the lowest overall time starts on pole. And the team in second place finished 1/10 of a second behind the team on pole. That is mind-blowing, isn't it?
It's absolutely remarkable when you consider these are drivers from entirely different backgrounds. They're not used to this environment, different cars, different ways to approach the event, because of course there's a budget they've all had to adhere to. They've got different car selections throughout that. Strengths and weaknesses, and it came down to 1/10 of a second after that much of a time. It shows just how competitive this series is and just how good the talent for sprint
When you think you blink in 3/10 of a second maximum, that's the difference over 6 hours and 45 minutes. We'll discuss this a lot more further, but right now, here's how we got to 36 different drivers.
The Le Mans Esports Series has seen over 20,000 drivers compete through 6 rounds online and in person at Fuji and Autosport International to bring us the Super Final, which is being held live at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The top drivers from each round formed the first 6 teams, and competitors could also build their own team of 3 drivers to compete for a spot. To make the Super Final even more exciting, 2 wildcard teams, SMP Racing and Veloce Esports, have also joined the grid for the day's action. That's 12 teams, 36 drivers, and a $100,000 prize pool up for grabs. There'll be 9 races spanning over 20 hours of track action over a 24-hour period, celebrating the history of the FIA World Endurance Championship, including a classic Le Mans start for the first and last race, where drivers will dash to their cockpits. Each team has an in-game budget of 150 million euros to put together their garage, so they'll need to choose their cars tactically to put themselves in the best chance throughout the day. Each race will be run in reverse grid order, so the team with the most points will start at the back of the grid and have to fight their way through the field. The first 8 races will determine the grid order for the final showdown, with every point being worth a 1-second head start, and not to mention cash prizes for podium finishes. For the final race, teams can win big from 6th position upwards with a fantastic $25,000 top prize for first place, plus an experience money can't buy, a chance for the top 3 teams to celebrate on the actual Le Mans 24-hour podium. It all comes down to this.
That it is unbelievable, isn't it? So $100,000 is the prize pool. $3,000 for winning the races from 1 to 8. You get $2,000 for second place and $1,000 for third place. And the big one, the last race, race number 9, 25 grand to the race team winner. That is absolutely amazing. So I worked it out, did some maths earlier on. $49,000 is what you could win if you win every single one of the races. So to find out more, we've got the thoughts of the Motorsport Network President James Allen and also the CEO of the WEC, Gerard Niveau.
Thanks, Bryn. So it all comes down to this, Gerard. It's so exciting. Motorsport Network, ACO, WEC, and that this Le Mans Esports series has been a fantastic championship so far.
It was an incredible super season, and now this is probably an incredible super final for this weekend. We start in a few minutes for an amazing race. I have to say that this is very new. 24 hours race with e-gamers, non-stop activities until tomorrow 11. In the middle of the racetrack where we held also the 24 Hours of Le Mans this weekend. So from a double event, we are doing a single big event, which is really good. And you're right, we visit many continents following the WEC during all the season. Southern and Southern e-gamers during all the season, and now just the top of the top with the best gamers fighting for the victory at the end.
Well, we said we were going to do it, and we've done it. 20,000 players over the course of the season, from the Americas, from Europe, from qualifiers in Asia as well. It's been really impressive. And what I love about this esports, this Le Mans Esports series, is how the drivers have to be versatile. You know, this isn't just driving one type of car. Exactly. This is many different types of cars, different eras, different conditions, and really the best drivers are going to come out on top.
I have to say that the organizer were a little bit vicious when they prepared the story for all the weekend. So you have some sometimes dry condition, wet condition, different track, different cars. Will be something very, very interesting. And the length of the race are different also. So this is still endurance because you will never stop for 24 hours, but you will have such a different configuration. So if you love the play to play, and if you love the motorsport and the sports car, you will be exactly in the middle of the action.
Okay, well, we better shut up because the race is about to start. I'm looking forward to it, and let's enjoy it.
Yeah, there you go, the thoughts of two very important people inside this one building. And as you can see, the competitors behind now, they are starting to get into the mood, shall we say. We're around about 15 minutes away from the start of the first ever race in the Esports Super Final, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I've got one of the competitors here, Aaron. This is from Tire Wall Racing. First of all, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here, man.
It's amazing to be here, isn't it? I love Le Mans.
It's one experience. I mean, the setup, the whole atmosphere is going to be electrifying for the whole, well, entire duration of the race.
Yeah. Now, duration of the race, you've got 9 different races and lots of things to slip you up along the way. But you've got a team. Are you happy with your team?
I'm super happy. I actually found out that I'm the slowest one on the team, which adds pressure for me, but I can rely on my teammates to kind of carry me through this one.
Yeah, so what's your strategy? How's it going to work? Have you already divvied up who's going to race where and when? Because you have time limits, minimum and maximum.
Well, we kind of like pre-scripted this before because we kind of felt who was strongest in which cars, and then we kind of revisited it all last night. So we're going to pray that it works, but we're all playing to each other's strong suits, and I think that's going to be the best thing.
Yeah, fingers crossed. A lot of money as well up for the stakes.
Try not to think about it, man. Try not to think about it. It's a long way yet. Long way yet.
It certainly is. 24 hours, but a lot can happen. Before I let you go back to your hard work behind there, Tire Wall Racing, where did that name come from?
We felt that it was more realistic that that's where we were going to stay for most of the time. But actually watching qualifying yesterday, starting 4th on the grid, I think that's maybe, we could be a little bit more ambitious than that. And I think that we can go for a podium here.
How tricky is it with qualifying? Because you have your cumulative times from the 9 sessions there, but obviously you're not all going to be racing every race. So how did you go about that?
Well, we kind of had to split it up. So each team members had to make concessions. So I'm not running the first 4 hours because I can't run the Shelby and I can't run the Ford. But these two guys behind me, Billy and Coey, are going to do a great job in that. So I'm kind of going to run the P-class cars. That's going to be my strongest suit. So we've had to kind of break it up a little bit more towards our strengths.
So you're coming to the middle of the day, really. Yes. Good luck out there, and we'll probably catch you in a bit. There you go, the thoughts of Aaron from Tire Wall Racing. One of many teams. Said to me earlier on, they thought they'd spend most of the time in the Tire Wall. That's where they come up with that name. But I don't think that's going to happen. I've got, I don't know, I've got a feeling they might do rather well. So as we build up to the first ever race in the Le Mans Esports Series, let's hand over to our commentators once again, Chris and Bo.
Thank you, Brian. Tension is certainly rising here in the arena at the Le Mans as we get ready to go racing for the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. For our latecomers, what have we got ahead over the next 24 hours? Well, we have got 12 teams with 36 drivers getting ready to go head-to-head for 9 races, battling it out for a $100,000 prize pool. We've got the best drivers in the world here. They've been through a qualifying process to get here to earn their spot. They are with their teams. It is a team battle like it is always at Le Mans Beau. Fantastic format, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and the interesting thing is it is such a team event, but a lot of these guys have never actually had to work in a team before, and if they have, not with these drivers. Of course, we've had individual qualifiers for this series, so they've actually been put into a team that with drivers they've never met in person before. Could be language barriers, could be any of that, and they've had to work and figure out the nuances of it. So of course you've got driver stint times, you've got obviously different driving styles, how you set the car for each other to get the best overall time for yourselves.
And we've been talking to the drivers and we've seen there has been some disagreements over strategy, of course, who gets in what car as well. How would you get around that as a driver?
It's very tricky, so what you really have to do is just make sure you prioritise the drivers that are able to get the best times, or at least the most consistent, because if you've got a driver that might be extremely quick over one lap, that's great in qualifying, but if they can't do that consistently, then you might have to just chuck in another guy. So you have to mix and match, you have to be forgiving for your teammates as well. Of course, everyone makes errors, so you have to make sure you work as a team. But overall, there's a lot of compromise involved. You've got to adjust different things to make sure it works for all 3 drivers.
So there are minimum and maximum driver times as well. It's worth noting that you can't just send a driver out for 23 hours and then get the other 2 drivers to do half an hour each. There is minimum and maximum driving times that are required. That comes into play as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You want to have your best guy in the car for as long as you can, but there's only so long you can have them in the car before they have to get out. You might have to put a less quick driver or maybe a less consistent driver in the car to get that car to the finish, and if we don't, there will be penalties applied. So that does mean there will be a lot of challenges. For the first 8 races, there'll be at least one driver swap with the stint times. But for that all-important final race, all 3 drivers have to be involved in that victory.
Well, we touched on, we're going through a journey through Le Mans, just like we did when we did the museum tour. That was the first of the activities the drivers got to do when they came here. Went to the museum at Le Mans and looked through all the cars throughout the history, and they saw some of the very cars that they're going to be driving over the next 24 hours. We're going to start with the early 60 prototypes and go through to the modern prototypes as well. A great journey, isn't it? A great start with Ford versus Ferrari, and then a great end with those modern prototypes.
Absolutely, it really tells the story of Le Mans, and that's one thing this series wanted to captivate, was the spirit of Le Mans. So having the drivers really go through all the history and having them learn all the little nuances of what happened in this series. So you go from the likes of the Group 5 cars, which are amazing in a straight line and sound incredible. You've got the likes of the 787B in Group C along the Sauber C9. That's a great combination to have. And then, like we said, all the way up to the prototype. So these drivers, there's also a lot of adaptability that comes into that as well, because these cars do not drive similar.
Well, we're nowhere near finished getting ready for this first race yet, but let's head over to Bryn for the time being. We'll be back very soon.
Yeah, thanks Chris and Bo. So we are building up. There's a lot of people moving into this arena now. There's a lot of excitement too. With Jacob from Wildcats, and you've got an interesting arm going on. First of all, welcome to Le Mans.
Thanks. It's pretty good to be here with all the cars going around. Yeah, my arm is, well, I've got a broken wrist, essentially, so I've taken painkillers and I'm going to be doing the race on a broken wrist.
There you go. This is not any form of performance enhancing, by the way. Painkillers because of his arm, done by quite a strange action. Tell us a bit how you broke your arm, please, Jacob, because the story is one for the records, for the historical records.
I went cheese rolling in Gloucester. If you don't know what that is, it's basically they get 25 guys on the top of this steep hill, and they get this roll of cheese, and they roll the cheese down, and the 25 people run after the cheese, and I fell on my arm because I was afraid of falling forwards, so I fell backwards onto my arm.
Just it occurs to me there's people watching all around the world thinking, you English are very, very odd. Yes, we do chase cheese every Sunday. It's a thing we do. It's just part of our culture. So tell us a bit about the race then. You're the first person in the seat behind.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the Le Mans start, and I'm okay in the Shelby, but Azzy is quicker, so I'm going to hand it over to Azzy after about the halfway mark. I'm just hoping to get a decent start. My practices with the Le Mans start haven't been good, so I've learned a lot though. I've put the headset where I can grab it easily, and I'm just going to try and get away from the pack as quickly as possible.
Well, good luck. We've got a lot of races to go, a lot of time as well. Good luck for the Le Mans start. Don't fall on the arm, please, although it's already protected. So yeah, we've got a lot happening. As you can see, if I just swing the camera around, we can really see, if we take a little wander, we can see just how many people are in this arena now. And quite a lot of excitement on the build-up to the first ever race in the Le Mans Esports series. We have our commentator team in place. We have all the drivers ready, all the teams ready. Seems like all tactics have been discussed. They know roughly what's going to happen, but anything can happen in 24 hours, and often does. Right now, back to Chris and to Bo.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Interesting injury there in the way he got it cheese rolling. I thought it was going to be a racing accident, and then I heard that as well. So, well, let's go to the first race. Of course, we've got the early 60 prototypes as well. 2 cars to choose from, Ferrari versus Ford.
And absolutely gorgeous cars too, aren't they? They look fantastic. And we of course have the Ferrari 250 LM. What a dominant car that was. 6 Le Mans victories in a row. Someone had to stop them, and that person, well, that company was Ford, but it wasn't this car. We're using the Shelby Daytona Coupe, which is a very nice looking car as well. Very quick in a straight line, and that is one of its key factors that it does have.
Let's talk about pit stops. What differences are we going to see here over the 2 hours, do you think? Of course, we're going to be racing at the pre-90s Le Mans circuit. Pit stops, do you think there's going to be much difference?
There will be a little bit of a difference. So you did mention we're using pre-90 Le Mans, so that means that there's a long straight, a lot of time on full throttle, so fuel usage is going to be a very big factor, and unfortunately for the Ferrari, its tank is a little bit less capacity, so it's going to have to do an extra pit stop. So 2 pit stops for the Ferrari, just 1 for the Ford.
Yeah, and that's no surprise. We have 9 teams have gone for the Ford, 3 for the Ferrari. Is that no surprise for you then?
Not particularly. So the Ferrari does seem to be a little bit quicker on 1 lap pace. It can have around a 0.5 of a second, but of course with a slipstream, that 0.5 of a second is always going to be quite a lot less. But when it comes to the race time overall, that extra pit stop is really going to hurt.
Now the teams, they had a bit of a warm-up race earlier, didn't they? Of course, all off screen. You got to watch that. How was it?
Interesting is the word I would use, but some amazing moments as well. The teams were obviously experimenting. It wasn't the first official race yet, so they could try different things. They went 4 wide into the Porsche curves. You don't go 4 wide into the Porsche curves. They tried it anyway. But teams went about it in different ways. So some teams decided, let's just do a race run, see how the tyres warm up, how the brakes warm up, get used to that first lap. Then you've got Veloce Esports. They went a very different approach. They went for pit stop practice, driver swap practice, and race starts. And where do we often see races won?
We've got the Le Mans start for race 1 as well, as we do for race 1. And you mentioned Veloce, they were very quick in practice yesterday. When we did, of course, we did 9 qualifying sessions yesterday. The times were accumulated together. That's how we got our grid for this first race. But the qualifying first session we did, it was MAD Motorsport who were quickest from Veloce Wildcats. Baguette Racing, who are going to be on pole position for this one, were down in 7th place. So interesting mix there. You think Baguette Racing could be in a bit of trouble?
They could be, because of course if you start mid-pack, you're of course going to lose ground at the start. You can end up, breaking away with a train out front. They might not be able to catch up with how the slipstream works. So, of course, being very quick in practice is all well and good, and being quick in qualifying as well, getting that pole position by a 1/10 of a second for Baguette. But of course, it can all go downhill pretty quickly if you don't get the start right as well. So it's going to be very tricky. We could see a lot of teams shuffling around.
Now, for those of you who might be a bit confused of how the prize money is going to work, of course, we have a $100,000 prize pool, but there is money up for grabs in every single race. And in this race, we're going to have £3,000 for the driver for the team who finishes in first, £2,000 for the team who finishes second, and £1,000 for the team who finishes in third place. When we get to the last race, of course, there's £25,000 up for grabs for the winning team. Now, this has seen some differences in the strategies over the 24 hours. Yep. Some teams have just decided, look, we'll just choose some really quick cars for some races and forget about that last race where we're going to be using modern GTEs. Everyone's gone for the BMW in that one. Some drivers have used less of their 150 million budget in that last race and chosen a bit of a cheaper car and gone a little bit more expensive than some of the earlier races. What are you making the difference in the strategies there? If I'm going to put you on the spot here, which strategy would you have gone for?
It's hard to say, of course. It all depends on how the driver's confidence levels is going into the event. If you see some of the other drivers, you think, oh, this could be a struggle to win this race outright, I'm not sure if we're going to beat them. Go for the 9K strategy as it is being dubbed by some of the competitors and try and get those fast cars into some unique categories and just take that money and sort of run from the event. But for those others, of course, there is a very large prize, like you said, for race number 9, the big one, and so many teams are gunning for it, went for the BMW. Personally, my competitive level in Forza, I definitely would have gone for the faster cars in the other categories, but these teams that want to win, they've gone hard in the event with the car selections.
And if they win, if you're in the top 3, you get to stand on the Le Mans podium when the cars outside are getting ready on the grid. That would be a fantastic experience, wouldn't it?
That's incredible because, of course, like you said, it's the race. It's going to be the gridding process for the actual Le Mans 24 hours. So you've got all the teams looking at you on the podium. You've got the likes of the Toyota factory team, the Corvette racing team. All those massive names that you see on TV in the World Endurance Championship, they're going to be looking at you standing on the Le Mans podium. That's something to definitely behold and a great experience for the drivers.
And on the back of the pit lane, we actually have a massive poster with Le Mans Esports Series on. So every driver's already seen that we are here. Every driver in the paddock, every team knows we're here, as do the fans. Then they'll get to see the top 3 on the podium. But of course, some teams might win £9,000, £12,000 in those earlier races. They get to go home happy and then they get to watch the race afterwards.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any losers in this event at all. Of course, they've all been taken to Le Mans, which is an amazing experience. Some of those were going to stand on the podium as well. So everyone's getting a little bit of the action, and no matter what, it's a fantastic experience. They'll all take something away from it. Others just a little bit of money as well to go with it.
That's it. And if they do win money, of course, it has to be split evenly between all 3 drivers. Now, before we get the race underway, race 1 predictions, overall predictions. Give me 2 teams.
It's very difficult to say. Of course, I've been looking in practice. Veloce Esports have looked very quick in the Ferrari, but they have that extra pit stop. So I'm actually going to go with our pole sitters in Baguette Racing to take out round number 1. and I think they're also going to be a favourite for that overall one as well. But for the overall, I'm going to mix up my prediction from my actual race 1 result. I'm going to go Veloci Esports.
As we said, we've got 6 teams who have qualified individually, 4 teams who have qualified via the Le Mans Esports Series Championship, and 2 wildcard teams as well in Veloci and SMP Racing. It's a very tough one to call. I wouldn't like to be the one to call it. I had to put Bo on the spot there. Let's wait no longer. Let's get this thing underway. Let's head over to Bryn to get us underway for the race start.
Thanks very much, gents. Yeah, we are very, very near the start of the race now. We were expecting one celebrity. We have got them coming at 12 o'clock. We have a different star, though. We have Thomas Laurent from Rebellion Racing. Great to have you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be there.
Now, Le Mans, we all love it, but why do we love it?
We love Le Mans because it's Le Mans. You know, it's really special, even more for a driver. I was dreaming about it when I was a child, and yeah, my first Le Mans was actually 4 years ago. I did the Road to Le Mans. So when yesterday I saw the free practice, I was like, that's some good memories. And yeah, with Le Mans it's a bit special with me because 5 or 6 years ago I was a French champion in go-kart. Then the year after I was world champion. Still on the same track. I won Road to Le Mans. Then I jumped on an LMP2. We won Le Mans, second in overall, and last year we did third in overall, so in LMP1. So yeah, some really good memories.
Yeah, your rise has been somewhat meteoric. It's really you've gone on and on and on. So what is next for you? What can you do here at Le Mans come tomorrow?
We can expect the same as last year. We will be there for the fight, for the final fight for sure. We just expect a mistake from our concurrents, and yeah, we will be there for the podium for sure.
Now, Rebellion Racing, I've seen the car. If some of the viewers haven't yet seen your car, you've gone for somewhat of a bold colour scheme.
Yeah, it's a bit like different. All the team is different. The boss is different. So yeah, they wanted to do something special for Le Mans, as they did for the super season with the zebra stickers, and yeah, that's really special.
And now looking behind, we've got quite a lot of people here. We have got all of these amazing screens here with drivers sitting or drivers ready to get in the cars. What's it like racing for 24 hours? What are the major problems you have to cope with?
I think it's the focus. Even more on a play like that, you have to be focused because you can't crash the car. It's like a video game, but it's a real race. So you can't crash the car, and you have to be focused for 24 hours. So it's actually harder as our race. Yeah.
Similar things you have to contend with, but a slightly different race series as well. So 9 different races. Thomas, if you could take this for me right now. Don't wave it just yet. I'm going to take this other mic to get all the drivers into position. So Thomas is going to wave the flag for the first ever race in the Le Mans Esports Series. Let me just see if the drivers are ready. Okay then, competitors, if you are all ready, we're about to get this underway. So all eyes on the flag. Let's take it away in 3, 2, 1.
Again, we are off away and racing for the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final, and the drivers are in the rigs, and that is the race underway. We are underway for the first of 9 races, 24 hours to go, and it is Baguette Racing who is leading the way. They led us off from pole position. Second place was Keep It Simple, third was MAD, and then we had Veloci back in 8th place as we head up towards the Dunlop chicane. For the first time, it looks like Keep It Simple have got into the race lead then. This is of course the Ford versus Ferrari, the early 60 prototype races, and we already had 2 cars going off just on the exit of the Dunlop chicane, so we'll pick up who they were in just a second. We can see Veloci off 5th, MAD have dropped down to 6th place it seems. Williams have just got up to 10th place. Of course, down the back of the field, I think SMP off to a bit of a difficult start to the race, but Keep It Simple certainly leading the way here. Overall, I'd say that was a fairly clean start, Bud.
it was a pretty good start for a lot of teams. Of course, Keep It Simple managed to get themselves into the race lead, and that is fantastic for them. They have managed to break away as well, and getting that slipstream advantage is what you need. But you can see right now, side by side, down the Mulsanne, almost 3 wide for some of these competitors. Veloce Esports in the Ferrari in the middle, going backwards. The Shelby Cobras just have so much more straight line speed, and the Ferrari not able to hold on to it at the moment, bypassing the first chicane there. We are on pre-1990s Le Mans, so there is no back straight. It's all the way down to Mulsanne corner, and Chris, we're expecting some huge braking manoeuvres into there.
Of course, we're on the pre-90s circuit, so we're going to be on this straight for a little while. And Kitty Crew have taken the lead. Well, they were in the slipstream, and you can just see up ahead, Kitty Crew are into the lead of the race. Certainly a team to watch out for this weekend, and they are leading early doors. If they can hold on to this for another 29 and a half laps, they'll have $3,000 straight in the pot. Just up ahead, we can see we're side by side. Let's see who we are on board with then as they go into the Mulsanne corner. And, well, a little bit of this is for the race lead. Kitty Crew and Keep It Simple briefly side by side there, but thankfully all our drivers keeping it clean. We've got a 2-hour race here. SMP Racing have just gone past Advocatus further down the field. Baguette Racing back up into second place, and it's them we are on board with now.
Absolutely, on the run into Indianapolis, which can be an overtaking opportunity if you're feeling brave. So we'll see how the driver in that Baguette Racing car of Alexandre Arnoux feels. How brave is he going to be? The answer is he's just going to play the waiting game at the moment. Like you said, it is a long race. You need to make sure you do focus on getting your car to the end. There's no point going for a risky move on the first lap and all of a sudden damaging your car, ruining yourself for the next 29 laps. Baguette Racing playing the simple car as they go into Arnage, almost a bump there, maybe not so simple.
Yeah, well, it's Tobin Lee in the Keep It Simple car at the moment. And as we head up towards the Porsche curves, it is a good start to the race for Keep It Simple. Now, Bo, what do you want to do at this stage of the race? Is this a stage where you have to go for it and try and take the lead, or is this a time to settle down and get a gap over the rest of the field?
I think for these top three at the moment, they do have to find a way to break away. Even if they don't begin fighting themselves through the Porsche curves, just keep a single file, try and make that breakaway, because if you can do that, you can find yourself securing yourself in the top three, assuming there's no mistakes. Before these cars behind, they need to push. But if you're behind another driver at this point in the race, we've talked about fuel, it can be a big factor in this race. Why not try and use the slipstream, save a little bit of fuel? That will pay big dividends at the end of lap 30 as they slide their way out of Porsche curves.
Well, we've had some big changes. Kitty Crew have gone into the lead of the race as we go down towards the 4 chicanes for the first time. And all this battling means we have more cars joining the queue. SMP Motorsport and Mighty 38 are coming into play here, and they are not on their own either as we are about to complete the first lap of the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. Here we go, lap number 2 gets underway. Kitty Crew leading from Baguette Racing. Keep It Simple are in third place. We go on board with Baguette Racing as we go up towards the Dunlop chicane. Are they feeling brave enough for a move? Not at the moment, but I think they were in danger of losing a place. Someone going wide there now. Was that Baguette Racing that had gone wide? Let's have a look as the positions will update coming out the corner. Further down the field outside of the top 10, we can see SMP and Advocatus have some ground to make up, but it's 5 for the lead at the moment. And it's Kitty Crew from Baguette Racing, MAD Motorsport. Veloci are the ones coming into play now. They have gone up to 4th place.
Yeah, they're making some good moves around the outside of their fellow Ferrari, but the issue is now they're onto the straight where the Shelby Cobra should have a little bit of an advantage, and already Keep It Simple has found their way past Veloce Esports, so a very easy move there already for the Shelby Cobra driver. Looking at Baguette Racing there, and that beautiful Shelby Cobra, and the white, red and blue accents, of course, on all French lineup. One of the only teams that are all consistent of a single nationality. There are 3 in total, but look at this for the race lead. Because at the moment, Kitty Crew is not going to be holding on to that race lead for too much longer, because that is Baguette Racing just closing millimetre by millimetre down this enormous back straight here at Mulsanne. You can see change of position going on in your background as well for the lower positions. So lots trying to make their move, but there is still a bit of a breakaway for this top 5 now. So it was 3, it's now 5. Can any more find their way onto this train?
Yeah, Veloce are just dropping away down the straight here. Keep It Simple, we are on board with in 4th place at the moment. And you can just see this is a time when you could almost fall asleep behind the wheel, because that is how long this straight is. The Mulsanne straight leading us down towards Mulsanne corner. Kitty Crew from Baguette Racing, MAD Motorsport in third place, and then we are on board with Keep It Simple as we go in towards Mulsanne corner for the second time then. And we're just going to see more changes. Oh, Veloci run wide and off the circuit as well. Now they are in danger of losing positions. Who have they got behind them? Let's have a look as the graphic will adjust at the top of your screen. You can see Tyre Wall have now gone into 5th place. Big mistake there to make early in the race.
Absolutely, and now look what's happened because of that. They've lost that slipstream on the cars in front. That could hurt them big time later on in the race. Also worth noting that it was a fantastic start for the guys at Kitty Crew, up 5 spots in a single lap. That is an enormous move for them and puts them in a fantastic spot going forward as Baguette Racing up the inside with a massive move on Kitty Crew as they run a little bit wide into Indianapolis. So being all the more opportunistic there. You can see also the Ferrari up the inside, almost contact, getting squeezed onto the inside by the Kitty Crew car. So they're not playing too nice with track limits at the moment. But that's MAD, which is a very unique team name. Of course, we can go into that quickly because it stands for Mexico, Australia and Deutschland, the 3 nationalities of the drivers.
There you go, and it's a gap forming now, isn't it, for our race leaders. Baguette Racing, our race leader, just got a 7.5 lead over the rest of the field. Baguette Racing through the course curves we go. On board with them. This is such a difficult part of the circuit, isn't it, Bo?
Especially in this Shelby Cobra, just look at the body roll, the car just flexing and moving and just pitching and yawing at every moment through the direction change, and it's getting very close for second behind as well, and that is Cobra versus Ferrari, where you get a really good idea of just how different these cars set up. As you can see already, the Ferrari there of Mad is just trying to find a move, cutting the grass across the white line for a second as well. As we look back at Veloce Esports, another of the Ferraris. And this is getting very interesting up the front of the field because Mad weren't able to make the move. They made their intentions clear.
That was MAD Motorsport there, wasn't it, who were almost off the track. Baguette Racing, though, are going to lead us down the start-finish straight. They've done a really good job here, Baguette Racing, to get back into this race lead, considering how they dropped back at the start. Looks like we were side by side for second place. I think a move was being lined up by MAD Motorsport. Whether they made it or not will become apparent very shortly. Oh, we've got side by side action going on then, so there was definitely a challenge for that second place. Whether it was successful, we will know now, and yes, it was. MAD Motorsport go into second place then, ahead of Kitty Crew.
Yeah, great move there by Robin Betka, who made that move stick. So the German driver making it work at the start. Of course, they started a little bit further down the grid, but they are making their way back up. Of course, after that, a little bit of a poor start for them, but you can see that Baguette Racing out front looking pretty in control at the moment, it has to be said, and not being challenged too much when they are able to break away. But it's that breaking away part that is so tough around the one. There's so many straights for these drivers to slipstream up to one another.
Looking back at the battle for second place, you can see it just in the background as there is your race leader, Baguette Racing, just a few car lengths back. Then we have the rest of the field. Let's drop a little bit further down the order, shall we? We've got more battles going on a little bit further back here, battles up and down the order. We can see the Wildcats car there, and we go down to the arena, we can just see the drivers in the rigs. That's the battle lower down the order of the top 10. Baguette Racing, MAD Motorsport, Kitty Crew, Keep It Simple all together, but Wildcats under a huge amount of pressure from Tyre Wall. There is Baguette Racing, your race leaders. They're definitely going to see some moves being made by the time we get down to Mulsanne here. Wildcats being very optimistic to not go defensive. They look like they're going to try the outside on Mighty 38. But Baguette Racing are there in the lead. Oh, are we going to go 3 wide? Yes, we are. Veloce, we just go flying past them as Mighty 38 go ahead now 2 positions. We're almost 3 wide into Mulsanne. Mighty 38 could pick up a good handful of positions here, and they have. And Williams on the move as well ahead of CMP.
Yeah, that was a pretty insane move there into Mulsanne corner, but they did make it work. It was almost 3 wide into the braking zone, which was not what you want to be doing, but we're looking at Wildcats at the moment to see just how close this pack is. The entire almost bottom half of the field all the way out to 10th place at the moment in this battle pack. So very, very tight at the top. and all through your mid-pack as well, which is exactly what we want to see. And you can see just sliding their way into Indianapolis for your top 3. So Baguette Racing have been clawed back in once again, not able to escape this time around, and going wide at Indianapolis is not going to help them, but it's the outside here for Mad. What can they do on the outside of Arnage? The answer is absolutely nothing.
They'd be brave to go around the outside there.
Someone is going to try it at some point, but what you're better off doing is trying to get the run into the Porsche curves, which is exactly what they have tried to do. Get that run, make something happen, but the Cobra just has the legs on the straight. So if you're in that Ferrari, it looks like you've really got to time that run, but you wouldn't want to go around the outside of Arnage. I really wouldn't want to go around the outside of Porsche curves.
No, well, they're going to give it a go. They're going to dive down the inside, and that is the race lead then for MAD. Fantastic move. They take the lead from Baguette Racing then. This lap number 3 of 30 now. Baguette Racing, plenty of time to respond, a little bit out of shape they were there. And this is bringing our 3rd place team back into play, which is of course Kitty Crew. So our top 3 back together once again. Do we expect to see this battle end? Did you expect it to be this close? Of course, I know these are the best teams in the world, but did you expect it to be this close so early on?
Honestly, I did. Looking at qualifying, there were so many teams just within tenths of a second of each other, and that's over 1 lap pace with no draft. So when you add in draft, when you add in battles, when you add in all the little aspects, it makes such an amazing series. And you see it's battling at the back for 2nd place. Baguette Racing is making a mockery of this lap at the moment. They've just fallen back and even more carnage as we're going 3 wide down the front straight. Oh, not 4 wide. This is absolutely incredible stuff. And it's an absolute drag race across the start-finish line into the Dunlop curve. In just a few moments there, you can see SMP Racing, who were in last, trying to make some moves at the moment in the Ferrari up the inside of 2 cars. Contact is made, and it's going to be who is latest on the brakes into this corner, and it's going to be so tight, locking up, almost contact. The CMP Racing car and Williams Esports trying to benefit from that Wildcat, one of the big losers who were 8th place heading into that section of corners, now dropping down the order dramatically as it's still on as they head to La Chapelle.
And somehow we all made it out in one piece. This is the battle down the lower order of the top 10 position, but they are fighting for it as if there is $100,000 up for grabs, and guess what? That's because there is, as we head now onto the Mulsanne straight. Oh, one of the teams getting all out of shape there. Wildcats at the back of this, and I have to say, surprised to see them down the order, considering they were 3rd when we qualified for race 1 yesterday. They are certainly out of position. There they are on screen. Of course, we got to speak to them before race. Now, we went 4 wide into turn 1. I think that's going to happen again when we get down to Mulsanne corner. This is when, Bo, you do not want to be at the front of the pack leading a train onto Mulsanne straight, because before too long, you're going to be at the back of it.
Absolutely, I think, especially with this coming down to the final 3 laps, and that's what these drivers will be learning is, over the race, how far back you have to be in order to make a move. And the answer at the moment seems to be that you don't have to be very close at all to make a move into Mulsanne, which is great stuff at the moment. You can see side by side as they're just about to bypass the 2nd chicane that we'll see used in the races later on today and in the 24 on the weekend. At the moment, fastest lap of the race did in fact go to Mad, but how long will they be able to hold on to that as the times continue to fall during this race? Fuel load burns off, but at the moment I'm not sure they're too worried about fuel burn. I think they want positions.
SMP Racing have joined the party now. A bit of a difficult start for them. Wildcard entry, of course, as well. Oh, and they've all gone straight on. Well, that was a classic. Person at the front of the queue missed their braking point, and everyone behind did as well. And someone else deciding to go and give the crowd away as they rejoin the circuit. So it's MAD still leading the way at the moment. We are on board with CMP, looking back at Wildcats, who have definitely benefited from that. They've gone up to 8th place with CMP in 7th place. It is still very close between our top 3, MAD and Kitty Crew and Veloci, as well as under braking. We can see Wildcats closing in, going down towards Indianapolis. Oh, and CMP, they've made a mistake. That looks like Wildcats are going to slip through. Well, they know they're going to be stuck on the outside for Arnage, and in fact they could lose a position, and they have.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a little bit opportunistic there by the driver on board, where they almost squeezed the Wildcats car out of the way, which is a little bit of rough driving, but nonetheless we do have live stewards here at the event. Anything they think is a little bit unfair or against the rule book that has been outlined to these drivers will be adjusted. But I have to say, look at your race lead at the moment. MAD Motorsports, we knew the Ferrari was quick, but the challenge was always going to be, could it break away? I think they've just about managed that.
Yeah, it looks like they have, haven't they? It's definitely starting to settle down a bit. Certainly not for the drivers at the back, but definitely at the front. We're seeing a little bit more of a settled race now. We are still nowhere near halfway through this race. It's 30 laps, as you can see. We're only about to get to lap 5 of that, so there is still plenty of time to go in this first race. $3,000 up for grabs for the winner, $2,000 for second place, and $1,000 for third place to add into their pot, which they'll take home at the end of the weekend. This is the battle for, what is it, 7th position, I think it is, and Wildcats, we can see stuck in the middle of that. At the head of the queue, I believe, is SMP. They're, of course, involved in a lot of battling on this last lap. This could be a frustrating situation though, Bo, isn't it? Because you're fighting for positions that perhaps you don't really want to be fighting for. Everyone wants to be in those top 3 positions, but is this why we're seeing such a frantic battle? Because everyone wants to get to the head of the queue and then start chasing those high positions.
It's one of those things where you want to make sure you get to the front because you know you've got the pace, you know you can get that lap time should you need it to pull away from anyone. The issue is, because of these long straights, you're able to get past so easily, so it's very hard to perform a breakaway, as actually on that last lap, Veloce Esports took away your fastest lap on a 4-minute 3. But it is difficult because they all want to get to the front to pull away because they all think they've got the pace, but in doing that, they're actually just bringing themselves further away from the cars they're trying to chase. So it's a little bit of having to work together with your opponents. You want to obviously finish as high up as you can, but sometimes you're just better off staying behind someone, let them try and pull you to a pack in front, and then you can fight for some higher positions at that moment. But it's just not happening for these drivers, and there are a few big shocks here. Of course, we saw Williams Esports, who are a massive name in sim racing at the moment. They've really come onto the scene last year and made a name for themselves. Of course, having Williams backing is big, but they've got the results, they've got the pedigree as well. 5th in qualifying was very solid for them. They're down in 10th place at the moment.
Yeah, well, someone who's certainly going along very well is MAD. They've actually pulled a gap now out front, and this is going to put 2nd and 3rd place in a bit of a tricky situation here. It's going to force them to start working together because the gap for the leader, you'll see it any second, is about 1.6 seconds, that looks like to me. So bit of a gap. This is a great position for MAD Motorsport at the moment. Wildcats certainly getting have been involved in everything. That we're seeing them a lot in this race, and once again it looks like they're going to get involved in some more moves. It's for, I think this is 7th place with the likes of Tirewall and SMP ahead. It is, and then we've got a battle between SMP and Williams just further back. So 2 big teams, as you said there, in SMP and Williams. But MAD doing everything right at the moment, leading from the Get Racing. And then here we are on board with our 3rd place team as we come up towards Arnard, just on lap number 5 of 30. Kitty Crew it is who are in 3rd place, Veloce and Chase. Now, if you're the Veloce car, and in the car for them is James Baldwin, you're looking at that battle and thinking, please start overtaking each other.
Absolutely. The second these two, the 2nd and 3rd, start fighting, it's just going to bring James Baldwin into that fight so much more. See the gap at the moment about 1.8 seconds for the Veloce Esports car, just lurking in the background there. Well, we've got a Ferrari in 1st, so we know they're quick. And with the setups of these cars, of course, back in this era where these cars raced, of course, there wasn't too much knowledge and there was a bit of uncertainty around all that. So in Forza, the only thing you're able to change on these cars is tyre pressures. So in theory, all the Shelby Cobras and all the Ferraris to one another should be identical, apart from a few things. But Get Racing is a little bit too wide through that turning point there.
Be careful.
And that's going to make him a lot tighter through this right-hander. So you can see Kitty Crew and Evan Thorogood in that car at the moment, a very familiar name. Some might know him as Raceboy77. Very familiar name to a lot of Forzas. He's not one that you'd want to make too many mistakes in front of.
Yeah, well, let's talk you through who is in which car. Mining 38 of Chris Farkas in the car. Wildcats have Jacob Bokett, CMP, Matthew Gator, Keep It Simple, Tobin Lee. Then we have Kiyoe Matsusaka for Tirewall Racing. James Baldwin is in for Veloce. Igor Dimitrov is in for SMP. Alexandra Arnu is in for Baguette Racing. Robin Bechter is in for MAD Motorsport. Evan as you just heard, is in for the Kids team. Yuan Yifan is in for Advocatus, the Chinese team. And we have Fabian Piffet for the Williams Esports team. So those are the drivers you're seeing. Of course, those just 12 of 36 drivers who qualified. And we're going to see the other drivers coming in, perhaps in this race as well. Of course, they do have to have a minimum of 2 drivers in each race. Let's talk pit stops. When do you think we're going to see the first ones being made?
Well, it's a very interesting thing I was actually about to touch on as well, is that right now MAD Motorsport are out in the lead. They're burning quite a lot of fuel, and we know that Ferrari has to take 2 pit stops. So is it worth for them to take it an even split, pit on lap 10, pit on lap 20, and just even out the tyre wear as well? And if you have to do 2 pit stops, that's the strategy I personally would be going in, because they've clearly got pace in clean air as well. Shelby Cobras though, they couldn't do it on a 1-stop if they're fuel saving just a little bit. So whether Baguette Racing and Kitty Crew at the moment are fuel saving, that's to be seen. If they can do it on 1 stop, Mad Motorsport, they've got to start building that gap. 7 seconds at the moment, that's not enough to retain the lead after the second pit stop.
Veloce Esports are closing in on this fight for second place very, very quickly, and they've done it all on their own because there hasn't been a huge amount of fighting in this battle for second. Yes, there may have been a mistake on the last lap, but other than that, Veloce have been doing very well. You can see they are starting to get a little bit closer. They're down the straight. They look like they are suffering. With Veloce, of course, in the Ferrari, are struggling to that 4 as we go down this long Mulsanne straight. That must be very frustrating for the Veloce guys.
Absolutely. They know they've got the pace. They know that they can reel in with 2 cars in front as they almost start battling into Mulsanne corner. He knows he can reel them in, but the issue is just the second they get onto a straight, they're just able to pull that margin. And overall, he has the lap time, so he will be closing in. But when it comes to actually overtaking them, it's going to be very tricky because he has to do all the hard work through the corners. The Shelbys, they can just go straight by on the straights, no trouble at all.
Well, of course, if they finish in 4th, they will pick up decent points. And it's points that's going to set the grid by the time we get to race 9, where there is $25,000 up for grab for our winners. Cash prizes all the way down to 6th place in that race. And of course, the top 3 get to go on the Le Mans podium as well, as the cars are lining up to do their 24-hour race. Now, each point equals a second head start in the race. So if you cannot win, if you cannot get on the podium, damage limitation is absolutely key in these early races.
Absolutely. In endurance racing, we often say that every second matters. That is never more true in the Le Mans Esports series, because every point you get is a second in the finale. And if you've got the quicker car by a couple of seconds a lap, or in the GTE race when we finally get to that, that's all well and good. But if you've got 30 seconds to close down on another highly skilled team, which all 12 of these teams here are, that's a very big ask. So you've got to make sure you're consistent through all the rounds, get all those points when you can. And like you say, if you know you've got a slow car, or if you've got a troubled race where you might have spun around in the first race and you're down the order, damage limitation, get whatever points you can, never ever give up in endurance racing.
Yeah, that's it. Well, they had $150 million to spend. Not in real money, of course.
That'd be very nice.
Yeah, it would have been. I don't think any of them would have turned up for the event, to be honest. But in this race, the choice was, of course, the Ferrari 250 LM and the Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe. We'll come back to that in a second, because that looked like a change for second place, and I think it was. What did you see?
Kitty Crew there managed to get the move done, as Baguette Racing just did not get the first turn in into that final chicane. So they've lost that position. But more importantly, we said, if they start fighting, it brings Veloce Esports in. And if you see them in the next shot, when we do see the trackside cameras, you will see Veloce Esports are so close now. They're within slipstream range, and Baguette Racing, they want this move back. Almost contact there. You could see sparks flying as they head into the Dunlop chicane. And out of it, you don't want to lose too much traction, because Veloce Esports, James Baldwin, will make that move happen. You can see there, he's lurking in the background. Baguette Racing gone from 2nd to 3rd, could be about to go from 3rd all the way to 4th. It's an amazing move around the outside at La Chapelle by James Baldwin. That was incredible. You don't go around the outside at such a high-speed corner. He made it stick in the Ferrari.
Great stuff there from Veloce. Of course, now they are on the Mulsanne. They are going to just drop back there. You can see Baguette Racing, well, trying to keep composed, trying to stay happy even though they have just dropped to 4th place. I think they'll probably go straight back into 3rd though, with Veloce struggling down this straight in that Ferrari compared to the Ford. Now they're in the tow, it's definitely going to give them a little bit more speed, but I don't think it will be enough to hold position, will it?
It's getting a little bit closer. At the moment you can see that they are keeping distance now. I wouldn't say they're losing ground at all. I think they've actually closed just a little bit. So if that's
surprised with that.
Yeah, absolutely. If the Ferrari can get on the toe, you can see just getting millimetre by millimetre down this bumpy Mulsanne straight. Of course, I had a bit of a play on these Forza rigs a little bit earlier in the week, and the amazing play seat setup as well. And down the straight, you really do feel all the bumps. It might seem like a nice place to relax, but I can tell you the drivers are getting thrown around quite a bit. But Veloce in that Ferrari just not able to reel in enough to make a move. But we know how good that car is on the brakes. Mulsanne could be an opportunity.
Well, let's see what happens down at Mulsanne corner. Veloce in the tow. Are they going to make a move? Let's have a look. No, they're going to sit tight for now, it seems. Yes, they do. So Veloce stay in 3rd. Our race leaders well clear from this MAD Motorsport, and Bryn has caught up with them.
Yeah, thanks, chaps. I'm with the race leaders at the moment. Chicane is here from MAD Motorsport. Now, doing very, very well. How's it going for you while you're watching? Because you can't do much.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one considering that we can't see exactly what the driver's doing. So even though coordinating pits is going to be pretty tricky from behind the desk because we don't really have any eye line of communication between the drivers.
But you can keep going back and forth every now and then.
Every now and then, yeah. As long as we're most of the time behind the desk, then we're fine. But yeah, no, it's good. I've got my phone up to watch the commentary, about a 40-second delay on that, so it's good to review stuff that you've just seen on the screen. And yeah.
Currently on lap 7 of 30, so a long way to go. Not even a quarter of the way through, but about a quarter of the way through right now. So everything going okay for you. Fingers crossed it carries on, but you're feeling confident?
Yeah, definitely. So Box is going to be doing the majority of this stint, and then towards the end of it, I'm going to be jumping in and trying to get the lead. Right now, definitely the battle for 2nd and 4th is about the one that we have to look to see if there's any breakaways from there to start chasing down. But fingers crossed we'll at least make a top 3 in this. It's looking like it will be right now, and yeah.
Fingers crossed then. Thanks very much for the Chicane. Billy, there's a lot of action going off away at the moment, so back to the commentators.
Thank you, Bryn. Well, let's have a look at what's happened while we were chatting to our race leaders, MAD Motorsport. There you can see Veloce doing a great job. Now, that looks like they are in 2nd place to me. We'll get confirmation of that. Yes, it is. So Veloce, fantastic lap this for them. Ahead now of our 3rd place team. Looks like MAD are still well clear from the rest of the field, but Veloce up to 2nd place ahead of Kitty Crew. What's happened to Baguette Racing? They have absolutely fallen away from this. So it's the 2nd place battle now between Kitty Crew and Veloce. So Kitty Crew can hold on to Veloce because they are absolutely flying away from through the corners. There's nothing Kitty Crew can do about it. They'll have to wait until they get onto the Mulsanne straight to close in on that Ferrari 250 LM in their Ford, but struggling. Oh, and a bit of a wheelie there from our 3rd place team, Kitty Crew.
I can't say I've seen that too often, but nonetheless, you can tell that they're pushing the limits of the car on the absolute adhesion of grip. And you can see that the car just really wallowing around. And of course, very soft suspension that these cars ran. But of course, the Shelby Cobra is going to be quicker in a straight line. I'm not sure if it's enough already to hold on to Veloce Esports. They might be out of slipstream range, of course. It's a long straight, but that is a fairly sizable margin that Veloce have pulled. So the Ferraris are clearly the quicker car. And now Veloce have to challenge that MAD had. They've got to build the margin on the Ferraris, because come that 2nd pit stop that the Ferraris have to do, that is a large time loss of around 18 seconds. At the moment, even MAD do not have that margin.
Yeah, we'll talk about those pit stops in a bit more detail, but this looks like CMP could be in a little bit of trouble, or could they be going forward? They've got Tyre Wall Racing just behind them, and CMP getting a little bit of a helping hand, it seems, from Tyre Wall Racing, and CMP are about to go on the move, so this could be a good run for CMP, just behind Keep It Simple at the moment. It's our fight for 6th place. And are we about to see a change there? Tyre Wall, the best seat in the house for this battle. They'll want to get involved as well, but up ahead I think we could see a change between CMP and Keep It Simple. Looks like CMP are going to try for the outside ahead of Tyre Wall in towards Mulsanne corner. We're about to go, and that's when we could see some changes. There is Tyre Wall Racing absolutely side by side up ahead. CMP now have the edge, and it looks like they're about to go into 6th position out of Mulsanne corner. Oh, one of the teams running a bit wide. Let's see who's going to come out ahead. It's going to be CMP just about ahead of Tyre Wall. This one far from over though.
Absolutely, and it looked like the move was done there for Keep It Simple, but they just ran in too deep, and that cost them 2 positions in the end. So a lot of switching around in this mid pack at the moment, which is what we like to see in Tyre Wall Racing, really capitalising. They're trying to make the most of it as they look to the outside of Indianapolis, a very scary part of circuit when you do turn in, especially in this car with such soft suspension. You can see Groom given on the inside. They're going to make it happen, and it looks like they've just got it done, and that's very tight on the rear brakes. Still side by side at the moment, so we'll see how they go into R9, and it's going to be very tough to do, but it is possible if you can make it happen. So this is going to be how it goes out of the corner, and they almost squeeze into the tyre wall, almost avoiding action had to be taken there. So that's a little bit of pushing out of track limits that will probably be looked at some point, but Keep It Simple has managed to get themselves in a 6th, taking advantage. They had it done in some more time, lost it, they've now managed to regain it.
Tyre Wall almost living up to their name there. CMP taking advantage though. They've gone up into 7th place with Keep It Simple now in 6th place. There is Tyre Wall Racing, and well, when we asked them about the name, it's that they literally did respond. That's where we expect to be, and they almost were running a little bit wide there through the Porsche curves, I have to say. Tyre Wall really pushing to try and get back into this fight before we head onto Mulsanne Straight next time. They do not want to drop away, because it's very easy around Le Mans, isn't it, to get caught in no man's land.
Absolutely, it's very, very tough circuit, and you have to make sure that you stick with the cars in front, because if you don't, it can be quite a lonely drive at the best of times. And well, this race is constantly changing. The positions are also changing all the time, and well, Veloce Esports in 2nd place at the front at the moment, with 3 seconds already on the behind. So these Ferraris do look quick. Only SMP Racing not quite able to use the full advantage. They are up 2 spots as well, so everyone's moving forward. You can see in the top right of the screen, fastest lap of the race goes to Mad on a 4 minute 3 and 7/10 of a second. So a very quick time, and you consider these cars are from the 1960s. Not easy to drive at all, and these guys are making it happen. Some of the best guys you will see in Forza Esports are right here at Le Mans at the moment, and putting on a fantastic show, especially for this battle all the way down in 6th place.
Yeah, so to remind you, it's Veloce, SMP and MAD who chose the 1963 Ferrari 250 LM, and the only other choice was the 1965 Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe, and that's what everyone else went for. It was 20 million for the Ferrari 250 LM and 16 for the Ford. So a few drivers trying to keep a little bit of money in the budget in this first race, but certainly Veloce, SMP, MAD felt that they want to spend that extra 4 million to try and get a result. And so far, particularly for Veloce and MAD, it is really working out for them. Not so much for SMP, but we still have a long race to go and pit stops to do as well. Now, it was very close going down Mulsanne, with SMP once again going on the move, this time trying to go past Keep It Simple. Got a long straight to do it, but also they have pressure from behind as well, so they have to be careful. You see CMB with Tyre Wall just behind, who really found themselves in the tyres last time. Tyre Wall will want to fight back on this lap. Let's see what happens when we get down to Mulsanne. It's been a relatively clean race so far. Looks like we've not had any huge dramas, which is great to see in our first of 9 races. We've seen a lot of great moves though, and a lot of great racing. 4 wide at times. If you've just joined us, that's what you've been missing. But still have plenty of laps to repeat that. Into the braking zone then, and CMP are going to stay behind for the time being. A little bit of a lockup for CMP, but using the runoff to avoid going into the gravel. So kept it together nicely there, did CMP. Now points wise, you can see the championship standings at the bottom of your screen. pretty simple now. The point split, 12 points go to the team at the top of the field, and then 1 point to the team who rounds out the field in 12th place. Points difference between each position, and a point difference will add to a second head start when we get to the last race of the weekend, which will be a Le Mans start. We'll be in the modern GTEs for that as well around Le Mans, and that's when we'll have $25,000 up for grabs in these races. $3,000 for the winner, $2,000 for second, and $1,000 for third place. But
absolutely, and these drivers, they know there's money on the line for that top three, but of course at this point in time in these early races, I think a lot of them will be focused on points to try and maximise their opportunity in that final race. You can see a lot of them are just keeping it clean, keeping it relatively simple. You can see it's getting a little bit close in this battle at the moment. We're on board with CMP, looking at the back, keep it simple in that Shelby Cobra as well. You can see just the raw pitch of these cars as they go through this very fast section of corners. See, they're just moving around so much, so very hard to be consistent. You can see, keep it simple, like he's sliding the car quite a bit there. If you're on the right hand, and have to shift that weight all the way over to the left now and carry that momentum all the way out towards the fourth chicane. So very tough to do, and you can see there the CMP didn't quite manage the most of it, and they're under a little bit of pressure now from the car behind, which is going to be very, very tight into the corner. But I think Tyrrell Racing will just keep it a little bit behind and just make sure they keep their cars with no damage, because damage in this race is on, of course. It's all fully simulated, so any bit of contact is going to force them into the pits nice and early, which is not what you want as we cross onto lap 10. And if those Ferraris are indeed going to split this race into thirds, this is the lap to do it.
It is indeed, and this battle still rages on. Our leaders have all separated themselves now, but these three certainly still have a big battle still to settle. That is exactly what we want to see as we go under the Dunlop Bridge one more time. We're at a third race distance now. Once we complete this lap, the battle between Keep It Simple, CMP, and our 8th place driver, Tyrrell Racing. Tyrrell Racing just at the back there, as you can see, taking a slightly tighter line there through Tex Rouge. That's where our drivers are staying this weekend. So great view for them, just on their doorstep, isn't it?
Absolutely, and they've had a very unique experience as well. They're actually camping outside near Tex Rouge, so really get the full on experience, and of course they're sharing that with their teammates as well. So 3 in the tent, and they all can talk tactics and how they want to attack this series in there as well. And from what I've heard from a lot of the drivers, they've really enjoyed it. Really helps bring the atmosphere of Le Mans to this series, and it definitely does add to the Le Mans spirit. It has to be said, as they find their way going down the Mulsanne straight once again. Tyrrell Racing just slipping behind a little bit at the moment, but of course it's a long race. It's still only 1/3 distance done at the moment. We have to remember as well, this is just round 1 of a bigger picture of an entire 24 hours for these drivers. So there's every chance at the moment they're actually just conserving their energy, just getting a slow start into the race, and making sure that they've got plenty in the tank when it comes to that final race.
Yeah, well, next up we are going to be doing a Ford versus Ferrari essentially again in race number 2. So the battle will continue to rage on, but a brilliant race coming up next after this. That will be on the 390 Le Mans circuit as well. We'll be using the Ford GT40 and the Ferrari Spark 330. Similar prices for those two cars were up for grabs. Race seems to be settling down now, Bo, doesn't it? Not between CMP and Keep It Simple up ahead, but certainly at the head of the field, everything seems to settle itself down. I guess this is the time we start waiting for the pit stop. When do you expect the first pit stop to be made?
I think it might be on this lap for the Ferraris, and if that is the case, then it's going to be very, very tough for them, because they're going to come out in traffic as well. And looking at the delta time, we've expected around a 17 to 18 second pit stop. So just judging by this, it's going to be around 5th place they will come out in. And that is a lot of Shelby Cobras to pass as well. And I'm sure those Shelbys will not make life all too easy on the Ferraris trying to make their way back through. But they will have fresher tyres, which will be a big advantage for them. But of course, nothing is ever easy here at Le Mans. So we'll have to wait and see how it does go for MAD, who are currently a race leader by a whopping 10 seconds over Veloce Esports. But meanwhile, the other Ferrari in the field is having a slightly less easy time against Wildcats as they go side by side heading towards the Porsche curves. Who is going to be the one to back out? At the moment, the answer is no one. SMP up the inside, trying to make it happen on Wildcats. Wildcats going in very deep though. They have to try and bring the car back over to the left, still side by side. And SMP around the outside of the left-hander. Make it happen, room to spare. Very nice move by the Russians.
Yeah, great move that from SMP on the team. That when we did the first of 9 qualifying sessions yesterday, were 3rd quickest. So this a huge surprise for Wildcats. It could be a case of the driver that set that time maybe isn't in the car at the moment, and they're playing a little bit of a different strategy to come quick later on in the race. That could be perhaps the strategy they're going to play at the moment, because they did say, let's have a look actually who's in the car. It's Jacob Bopet, so it definitely isn't the driver who set the time last time. Jacob said the driver they've got from the Asia region is their quickest, and is the one that's been setting the times for them. Jacob, of course, is the driver we got to caught up with pre-race, carrying a little bit of an injury this weekend. An injury he gained during a shoot roll event just a month before he was due to come race at the park. I'm just going to leave that there, actually. Here we go back to this battle. Keep It Simple and CMP continuing to fight at the moment. Matthew Gator in for CMP, Tobin Lee in for Keep It Simple. Now, Keep It Simple did decide that their tactic was going to be the one we discussed pre-race mode, which was let's try and take some money in the races in the middle phase of the 24 hours. So races 3 to 6. Rather than going for the end prize at the end, which of course is 25,000 of the modern GTE. They want to try and just pick up money in races where some cars have really huge advantages.
Absolutely. In the Group 5 race a little bit later on in the night, we will actually have the Porsches that are so much quicker. It's almost a bit of a multi-class race, and that's all about just how the teams factor in their budget. Because if the teams are trying to win this grand prize, there's no way you could afford that Porsche. It would just require so much compromise elsewhere. It would hurt your strategy overall just for that one race. So for the other teams, they've all gone for the Ferrari, but it's just not going to be able to compete no matter what happens. So to keep it simple in that Porsche, and I believe it's also Advocatus Diaboli that are also going to be in that Porsche, they've got a great chance at some big points if they're a little bit further down the field. And another thing we have to remember as well is it could be tough for them on the opening laps though in that race, because after this first race, nothing is set by qualifying times, it's all done by inverted points.
Well, Kitipu are the best forward out there at the moment in 3rd place. Baguette Racing 2nd. Of course, our two race leaders in MAD Motorsport and Veloce are leading the way and leading very comfortably at the moment. We're going to be expecting them into the pits very shortly. MAD Motorsport are the ones leading the way. There we can see Keep It Simple and CMP. And CMP putting on the pressure here. They're just finding it a little bit difficult to make a move. So I guess this is the time though where all you can do is try and keep pressure on and force a mistake.
Absolutely, and if you can't find a way past, sometimes just piling that pressure on and hoping a mistake happens is the best thing to do, instead of just trying to force the issue and trying to make something happen. But we go back to MAD Motorsports, who are your race leaders at the moment, and well, we said it was going to be a little bit tight on fuel for a one-stop strategy. We'll have to wait and see if they do in fact come in on this lap. Of course, they've went 1 lap longer than my prediction, but meanwhile there's a battle heading on for CMP and Keep It Simple, not able to make the move happen though, so it will be the driver in Keep It Simple that are making it happen in that position at the moment. So we'll see how this goes heading through the rest of the Porsche curves, but it looks like Keep It Simple are going to hold on to that spot. But it does seem like MAD Motorsport have gone on another lap, so maybe they're just trying to keep their car in clean air for as long as they can, hopefully jump some more cars when it comes to coming back out in traffic for their first and second pit stops. But for MAD Motorsport, what a race it has been so far.
Yeah, they've done an absolutely fantastic job at MAD Motorsport. We caught up with all the teams yesterday. MAD Motorsport, of course, their team names standing for Mexico, Australia and Deutschland. So they're one of the teams that has individually qualified. They've been put together when they arrived here at Le Mans. Perhaps they haven't really met in person before. They struggled to practice together because of the time differences between Australia, Mexico and Germany. When you take all that into account, I think it just exaggerates how well they're actually doing at the moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and they've actually been, I have to say, one of the more prepared teams. It looks like despite all the language barriers and all the issues that they have had to cross with their practice and whatnot, they have actually managed to get along very, very well, and they're all managing to do their job very efficiently. And I even saw Mariana Ocana, who's one of the drivers, the Mexican driver in that team, was actually holding out a tablet with a translated box
Yeah.
when they needed to pit. So no matter what language you are, they've managed to make it happen and make sure the driver gets that clear information. And when it comes to endurance racing, communication is so vital to making sure you hit your mark, you know what you're doing and what might be needed in the future.
And they qualified third overall, didn't they, in Motorsport? So this is no fluke. They were quickest when we did the race 1 qualifying session earlier, because that didn't actually set this grid. It was a cumulative time over 9 sessions. But they were quickest in that. They were third quickest overall, which meant their consistency was very good. They were about 4.5 seconds off our pole sitters, Baguette Racing, by the time we had done 9 sessions, which is fantastic. Of course, keep it simple. We're only a 10th off of Baguette Racing, who lead the way. But MAD, they've been very consistent so far. Haven't really made any mistakes. I know we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. This is only the first race, and they've perhaps gone for the better car than the Ferrari, the more expensive car. But getting off to a good start is often key in an endurance event.
Absolutely, it builds momentum, and that driver just has that experience to build on, and they're used to running up front after this race because they've obviously led this race from pretty much the start. It has to be said, they've got that lead on around lap 4, I think it was, and they haven't looked back either. So it's a lot of benefits to just winning this first race, and of course, not to mention you've already banked some nice money as well, $3,000 for your race winner in this first race. So there's a lot of benefits to winning this first race, and I think this team will benefit a lot from that. But overall, I think they're going to be one of the teams to beat because they're very consistent. They haven't gone too aggressive with a lot of their car choices. In fact, this first race is one of the more aggressive ones they've gone for. Overall, Mad Motorsports are 100% a team to look out for. But right now, I think Keep It Simple might have to look on their rear view mirror rather than looking at MAD Motorsports. They made a bit of an error through Indianapolis, allowed CMP to get a little bit closer. We have seen CMP try to make a move at Porsche curves before.
Yeah, and MAD, when we get to race number 2, Ford versus Ferrari, they've gone for the more expensive car in the Ferrari. Again, I'm not sure if there's some kind of deal going on there with Ferrari, but MAD have chosen to go aggressive early in the event, try and get a bit of a head start, and then hang on as we perhaps go through some of the races where they might not be on some of the quicker cars.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is only probably one downside when it comes to trying to build that lead early on, and that is that sometimes you can put a bit of a target on your back, and some teams might, just defend a little bit harder because you are the series leader, and maybe just race a little bit harder. But you can see out there, Robin Betka, who some might know as a box, as his gamer tag does apparently say. So very, very interesting to see how he is going. Of course, a very successful driver. Some might know him actually involved with Red Bull Esports as well. So very, very experienced driver and knows what he's doing. 12 seconds over James Baldwin, which is a very large margin. So he's doing fantastic out there. They clearly know the car very well, and are just able to build that margin right now because no one, even any of the other Ferraris, really seem to be able to make anything happen. But it does appear that Kitty Crew might actually be in the pit lane as they drop down the order, and they do appear to be making our first pit stop of the Le Mans Esports Series.
Yeah, that looks like the case. Kitty Crew dropping down, which would appear that they have gone into the pit. So they are the first team to bite. They're the first team to take a stop. Now that's SMP trying to make a move, and they make it successfully. That's a good move, that from SMP. You seem to just be moving further and further forward as this race goes on. They're now into 7th place, and considering where they were at the the start of yesterday really were struggling a little bit were SMP. It was a late wildcard entry that perhaps the reason behind why they were struggling just a little bit. They're starting to get more comfortable in the rig and a little bit more comfortable with the cars.
Absolutely, and I mean, I think if you looked at the qualifying results from yesterday, some could have said SMP were perhaps a little bit of a disappointment because we know just how talented that team is. We know the potential of those drivers as well, and SMP are a very large name when it comes to racing, whether it's real world or sim racing. So we expect them to be moving themselves consistently up through the order. Of course, they are in the Ferrari for this one, which does give them a little bit of an advantage, but it can't be said that it is a great thing to see that SMP are making their way forward. But moving forward isn't the thing they're doing at the moment, because Tidal Racing are trying to have something they say against that, but the Cobra pulls out alongside, but just isn't quite able to make anything happen at the moment. I'm a little bit surprised by this. I thought the Cobra would be able to just power on through and be able to get the lead well before turning into Mulsanne corner, but the Ferrari just has the legs when those cars are side by side.
Yeah, it just seems to be a bit of a surprise. I thought the Ford would just disappear. I don't know if it's given the Ferrari a little bit of a push, but SMP really holding on here as they go down the Mulsanne straight and in towards Mulsanne corner. They actually have now dropped behind, but are they going to come back fast under braking? No, they aren't. So SMP are going to have to try again, are they? Let's have a look. We're on board with them now. In fact, that looks like that might be them ahead. So SMP still ahead at the moment, and now have the opportunity just to try and build a gap over Tyre Wheel Racing as we head in towards lap number 14. More pit stops being made, or more pit stops about to be made. You can see on the track that one of the teams way down the field, and that would have been from the pit stop, I assume. CMP are going to go back with them. They're still battling with Keep It Simple. Now it is for 5th position rather than for 7th position, which it was before. Looks like they're perhaps working together a little bit more now, Keep It Simple and CMP. Don't seem to be making moves on each other as much as they were before.
It does appear to be that way, and it looks like they're just playing a little bit nicer, which is good to see. And also just quickly touching back on Kitty Crew as well, that was a driver change in that pit stop as well. So Felipe Roberto will come into that car, but CMP are just signaling that they might be wanting to take a pit stop pretty early on in this race. So we'll see when they decide to take that. But very interesting to see how they're just working with Keep It Simple at the moment. Of course, they were scrapping very hard, but they've realized they're just losing ground to the cars in front in that top 4 of Baguette Racing, who currently hold that spot. So they're trying to work together a bit more, make sure they can move themselves forward later in the race if anything happens to this top 4, because of course fatigue is such a factor in endurance racing. So some of these drivers might not be used to actually running races of this distance. So fatigue will definitely set in, and look at this, CNP Racing, they said they were going to be taking a pit stop pretty soon. Pretty soon is indeed the answer. CNP come in to take our 2nd pit stop, and immediately, look at that, damn, driver change already. So that is Matthew Gator, the Australian, getting out of that car, and their next driver popping on in as well. So let's go over to Bryn with an interview.
Right, yeah, I'm here with Matthew. Oh, hi, yeah, I'm here with Matthew. Just got out the driving seat. It was quite a long stint for you.
Yeah, it was pretty good. 13 laps. Alex is going to do a little bit more than that, but yeah.
What's it like to handle this car? They look pretty wallowy from this era.
Yeah, it's pretty much a boat. Yeah, it's like to do wheelies. So whenever you get on the gas, it tends to go all over the place a little bit. But yeah, no, it's a little bit of a handful. Got a little bit of character.
Now, I was looking to your right in your seat. You've got Keep It Simple to your right-hand side, and you were chasing them down there. Real battle going on. They were looking at you, you were looking at them in the flesh as well. So that's an unusual one because you're side by side. Not often you have battles with the car or the guy next to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, we got a bit lucky with them being beside us there. Yeah.
So overall, 10th at the moment, you just had a pit stop. So you were happy with the first race so far?
I was pretty pleased with that. Yeah, we made up a couple of positions. So yeah.
Well done. We'll keep an eye on you, and hopefully you'll gain some more places. There you go, back to Chris and Bo.
Well, great to hear from Matt Gator now. Alex Harrison is in for CMP now as they go in just a little bit earlier there, Bo. So undercut perhaps?
Yeah, potentially. Of course, these tyre wear will be a factor in this race. Of course, Le Mans, not the most tyre-intensive circuit, but nonetheless, you will be scrubbing some speed off the car. So an undercut would be a great shout, but of course, with an undercut always comes that challenge in the remaining laps where you will have slightly higher tyre wear than your opponents. But nonetheless, it's good to see. But the thing I am surprised about is the Ferraris are still out on circuit at the moment. With that giant lead that MAD Motorsport have at the moment, could they potentially just be fuel saving just enough to make it happen?
Yes, they will. Let's go back to our leaders then. MAD Motorsport, it is still in the race lead. When do you expect to see the Ferraris coming in?
Yeah, absolutely.
When do you expect to see Ferraris in? Halfway through? Just standard in and out? Or?
Very possibly, if they can stretch the field that long, because of course we've been spoken to and we've all heard that the Ferrari should be able to do a two-stop strategy, not quite a one-stop, but they do appear to be making it happen. So perhaps the Ferrari really was the car to have, and these drivers, with these teams of Veloce, SMP and MAD who have chosen the Ferrari, have managed to pull a bit of a joker, managed to find a slightly better car than perhaps Shelby Cobra, which was said to be the car to have with the long straights around here, but it just hasn't happened. Of course, Polestar, Baguette Racing now in third place, of course, with Kitty Crew pitting, but they're just not able to hold the same pace that they had in qualifying.
Well, as you said, we expected 2 stops, but making it go a little bit further in this race. So great to see from the likes of the Ferrari there with MAD, Veloce and SMP. We haven't seen a huge amount of pit stops yet, but that'll change as we get further into the race. MAD certainly still on track at the moment as he comes out of the Ford chicane and down the start-finish straight now. We're about to go on to lap number 15 of 30 here. Approaching halfway once we complete this lap. That'll be half race distance completed. So a 2-hour race it is to kick us off. Lots of 2-hour, 3-hour races. That's pretty much what the lengths of races are going to be, bar our last race, which will be a 90-minute dash to the flag. And we can see our race leaders coming under the Dunlop Bridge now. 13 seconds is the distance to Veloce, with Baguette Racing in third place at the moment. Positions available to you at the top of the screen. And we've got the championship standings down at the bottom of the screen as well. Those championship standings are just going to become more and more important as the races go on. The other reason those championship standings are important is because they set the grid for the races, but not in the way you think. So race 2, the grid won't be set. When we say the grid will be set by the championship standings, that doesn't mean our pole sitter is going to be on pole position. No, MAD Motorsport, if they stay where they are, will start dead last. So it's going to be a complete reverse grid. That process will be repeated in every single race. So every single race between races 2 and 8. So as it stands, SMP Racing would be the ones to start on pole position, as they currently are 12th and last place. That's going to be an interesting factor, isn't it, all the way through. It means if you have a bad car choice in one race, shall I say, the next, and you drop down the standings, you can take advantage of perhaps a good car choice in the next races. You will be in pole position.
Absolutely, it's going to help keep the championship nice and close. And of course, the drivers that are in third, or the teams that are in first, have to make their way through the opening part of the race. They have to fight their way through the pack, and we know so many times drivers have lost so much time to the leaders in those races where they have to fight from the back, that the race win or even a podium or top 5 just isn't possible anymore. So this will constantly shake up the grid order, this will constantly shake up your race result, and should provide a very close finish all the way through to that Le Mans start in race number 9. But nonetheless, at the moment, we are expecting this championship to go right down to the wire, and there aren't many ways for these teams to win it early. So it's going to be very, very tough for all these drivers just to make sure they're keeping the points coming in every race and managing where they can to manage their bad results. But car choice is going to be so critical, because even if you might perhaps have a slightly slower car in one race, if your championship position means that you start on pole for one race, you could still fluke a result.
Yeah, that's it. And it's good. I do love it when a format like that is put into play, particularly for an endurance race like this. The whole 9-race format, to me, I think that's the best way to do an event like this, isn't it? We could have just said right, we'll do 24 hours all the way to the flag, and the winner takes 100,000. But this is a true test. You know, it's over 9 races in 7 different types of car. So they're using 7 different cars over that 9 races. They've got 3 drivers. They have to do a minimum amount of driving time as well. So all 3 drivers are going to be put through their paces over several amounts of hours. And as you can see already, drivers getting out of shape. Not only that, but as well as driving on the pre-90 Le Mans circuit, we're going to do the modern Le Mans circuit, we're going to go to Spa, we're going to go to Silverstone, and we're going to go to Sebring. So similar to what the drivers in the World Endurance Championship are doing, we're going to go to these different circuits. Modern GTE at the very end of the 24 hours, and race 9 will be on that Le Mans circuit as well. So it really does have that championship feel to it, doesn't it, this?
It certainly does, and it also means the drivers have to be adaptable, but they've got to make sure they've got the right drivers in the car for each of these races. If one driver is a specialist at one certain track, they really know Sebring well. You have to make sure you prioritise that driver for that particular race. So there's a lot of compromise, there's a lot of changing and chopping, and all of that the drivers do have to do to make sure they can get the best result, because there's not just one way to win this championship, there's a lot of different ways, and you've got to make sure that you're getting those points across every single round. And for these drivers, there's so much to learn as well. Every car, they have to know the little details of it, how it drives, how it reacts to certain situations. You've got to know the pace differences, you've got to know the strategy as well. So this series has a little bit of everything. And just looking at the forecast for these races, there's even a chance of weather to be thrown in as well. Fortunately, we won't be racing in the dark at all, but the weather can turn in a second, and we know how quickly it changes at Le Mans.
Well, and we've seen it over several years. We're going to see it again today in the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. Fantastic stuff it is. It's a grueling process, this event, but when we get to the last race, all drivers have to make sure, or have to try and be as fresh as possible, because that last race, all drivers are going to have to take part. And that's going to make the strategy different to what we're seeing perhaps in these races. It's going to be an hour-and-a-half race, and they've got to get all 3 drivers in the car. So that's going to change things as well. You know, if you were just 3 drivers and you could have done it any way you wanted, you could have had some drivers do the night time and then not have to come through that last run to the flag. But in this, everyone has to be available to do that last race.
And that means for one particular driver, they're going to have to do 2 of those drivers. They're going to have to do 2 races in a row.
Yeah.
And that's where fatigue is really going to set in for them. So it's going to be interesting to see who they choose to put in the car. Do you put your fastest driver in for 2 races in a row? If they're quick, you know if they fatigue, they're still going to be okay pace. Or do you keep that fast driver fresh? So if you're in a battle all the way to the flag for that main prize pool of 100,000, that they can actually fight at the top of their game. It's a very tough challenge to make. And you know, drivers are obviously keeping their rosters very hidden for obvious reasons, but I'd be very interested to find out just how some teams have approached it. So I bet that there are a lot of different ways these teams have thought about it, and ways we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, I mean, of course they knew the format before they came, so there probably was a planned strategy with times, etc. However, that can change, can't it, over when you get to an event. Something might happen, you know, it could be anything, and you might have to go and change that. How do you then deal with that?
It's very tricky, and especially when it comes to the real world endurance races in the World Endurance Championship. Often in interviews before the race, you'll have a reporter say to the driver, do you have a plan for this race? And they'll say, no. It's too long, there's too much that can change, and that you have to be prepared for every situation. You have to be prepared in an instance to be able to flip your plan upside down, try something completely different, put in a different driver for a race you weren't expecting. It's about being adaptable. It's about making sure that in every situation you're able to cover it, and the team that does that best will be putting themselves in a great spot for the finale. But it is a very different challenge for these drivers. Of course, a lot of them are used to the sprint race mentality. They're used to having to fight for every position all the way to the checkered flag. In endurance racing, you've got to pick your battles.
Well, MAD Motorsport, the ones doing the best job in this first race so far. They currently lead the way. If you just joined us, well, thank you for tuning in. What have you missed? You missed a fantastic 16 laps so far. The first 8 to 10 laps in particular, absolutely ludicrous. 4 wide we saw into the first corner, 4 wide at times going down the Mortstown straight and even into the Porsche curves as well. It's been a frantic start to the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. This is the first of 9 races. How does it work? Well, at the end of the 8 races, a grid will be set based off points. The teams will do a Le Mans start, and they will be fighting in that last race for $25,000 with prizes going down to 6th place. However, in every race before then, there's $3,000 up for grabs for the race winner, $2,000 for second, and $1,000 for third place. Well, it's been a frantic start, as we said, and I believe Bryn has caught up with the mighty 38 team.
Yeah, I am here with David from Mighty 38. So, how's it all going for you at the moment? Looking at the moment, laps 17 of 30?
Yeah, Chris is doing a great job in the car right now. Him and I had practiced this one at first. Unfortunately, our third driver, Sean, isn't here with us today. So we're kind of two-manning the whole event, got about 12 hours ahead of us each. So it's pretty tough, but Chris has gained a lot of positions in this race, and he's looking really strong right now.
Yeah, we've got a slight rule change for this particular team because of a 2-drive lineup as opposed to 3. That's nothing to do with them, wasn't their fault at all, but we're down to 2 drivers here, which means you have a 12-hour limit per driver for this 20.5-hour race series.
Yeah, so we're trying to split it as evenly as possible because even with a 3-man team, it's a really grueling event. So with 2 people, it's even tougher. So we're trying to split it up, make sure we each get some rest so we can perform to our best.
But the implications for you are somewhat slightly different to some of the other teams, where some of the other teams have had individual drivers competing or practicing in certain cars with certain setups. You guys haven't even driven some of those setups until yesterday.
Yeah, so the way we had split it, we tried to maximize our time in each car so we weren't spreading ourselves too thin. But a couple of the cars, Chris and I haven't even driven much, so we've really had to use our qualifying time as more of a practice session to get used to it and make sure we're on pace for today.
I know you're about to get in the car, so I'll let you get back and get your thoughts, but good luck.
Thank you.
There we go, the thoughts from Mighty 38. Back to Chris and Bo.
Thank you, Bryn. Great to hear from the Mighty 38 team. It's going to be around the arena for the entire event. It's going to be great to hear from all the teams as the event goes on. Great to hear from the drivers just coming out of the rigs. Great to hear from the drivers who are in the back of their garages getting their plans ready as well. That's how we've kind of set the arena up. It's quite a unique setting, isn't it? They've all got their own little garages with monitors, so they are getting fed information, and that is where they are able to change their strategies. Some using iPads as pit boards, some having to use Google Translate if there's a little bit of a language barrier. So all the teams are working around that very differently, but it's great. They've all got their spaces there where they can work into, and that gives it such a Le Mans feel to it, doesn't it?
It does, and a lot of the teams have actually just personalised it a little bit and moved everything around just to make it comfortable to them. And I've even heard some teams talking of even trying to get some rest and sleep in there as well. So they've really used it as...
Beanbags have been brought in.
People have brought in beanbags. People are not joking around when they bring in beanbags. So it's an amazing event at the moment, and everyone's making the most of it. And it does have that Le Mans feel where you are sleeping in the garage and also just working on the details behind. And some of the spreadsheets that some of these teams have brought, just trying to maximise strategy. I saw a little glimpse of what Kitty Crew have actually brought into this event, and they have run through so many different scenarios to maximise their strategy. So their one team in particular, if they're not the quickest team on track, you can bet they'll be one of the most strategic, and they can find their positions that way.
Where do you think you'd start? I mean, if you just put yourself in their shoes, if you qualify through as a team, and your teammates, one is from the Americas and one's from Europe, where do you start? How do you start your preparation from that?
It's very tricky.
Is it an impossible question for you?
It's, with the different time zones, it's very, very hard to make that all happen with all of them, but I know some teams here have really, like MAD Motorsport for example, have really tried to manage. They can actually practice at the same time. So we had, I think it was Kian Butler, was actually waking at 6 in the morning to practice with their teammates, and then they just run long stints, find data on tyre wear, find data on fuel, and see how they can work the strategy that way. But a lot of these drivers haven't taken this lightly. They're really pushing this, and they're really making sure they commit 100% to this. I was talking to Kian Butler again just a little bit earlier yesterday, and he was saying that he was almost doing 1,500 laps to make sure he was well prepared for this event. And that is a serious amount of laps, especially when you're talking around the likes of Le Mans, Silverstone. They're not short circuits, they're 2-minute, 3-minute laps.
Well, you can see there, you can see the garages, you've got the drivers' names up on. One thing you would have seen, of course, is our rigs. So drivers, there you can see, there's the arena we have. Those rigs, of course, some drivers have never used one before. That's been a challenge for them as well, hasn't it? They're a pad player, they've arrived here, they've had to get used to it. Some invested to try and practice on a wheel, but some have come here, we've got our Thrustmaster wheels in place and our rig set up. They've had to try and get used to it.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
It really is, and Advocatus Diabli in particular were one of those teams that were really struggling at the start to try and manage that transition. None of them were invested in wheels before the event or anything, so they've just arrived here at Le Mans and being thrown onto these rigs and trying to keep up as best they can. And they have adapted very well. Of course, we saw them qualify second for one of these races coming up in the Group 5 cars. But it's a very large challenge to make sure they can actually keep on form and adapt, because if you're quick on a controller, like so many of these drivers are, it's an entirely different ball game on a wheel, because you have to use your feet all of a sudden. It's a lot more shoulder movement. It's not just all in the hands.
Yeah, well, tell me more about that challenge, because some people would argue it's racing. You're using a wheel and pedals. Surely that shouldn't be so difficult. But what is it that makes it difficult if you're using a controller to jump into?
The biggest challenge, I would say, is, of course, on a controller, you know the inputs you need. You've got the finger movement, and you know just how much lock it all applies to make yourself around the corner. But on a wheel, you've got to translate the movement of your finger into an entire rotation of your body. It's an entire body movement, and just finding that exact precision is where it's going to be very challenging. And then, of course, you've got the pedals, having to modulate properly. On a controller, you're using joysticks, it's a lot easier. On a pedal, it's all on the feet, and that's something they don't use at all. So it's really, really difficult for them to actually modulate properly. It's a challenge for them to actually get the same experience they get on the controller.
I mean, I was speaking to a couple of the drivers though. It seems some of them are actually starting to enjoy this more. It's a more enjoyable experience, truly, isn't it? Playing the game on a rig from actually using a controller.
Absolutely, and I mean, these wheels, the Thrustmaster provided, are absolutely brilliant. You feel every little millimeter of bump in the road, you feel every crest. If you make contact with the driver and you get oversteer, you'll know with these wheels. So the TSPC wheel rims that they have provided are fantastic. They've done an amazing job, and also the drivers have a lot to say as well about the pedals, and they've been really happy with that. So for these drivers that aren't coming on from controller to a wheel for the first time, they've had an amazing experience. Like you said, a lot more enjoying it, a lot more than they thought they would.
Well, if you're going to be heading to the tour this weekend, make sure you head over to come and see us in our arena, because once we finish up on Saturday at 11 a.m, we will be opening up all the equipment to the public, so you'll be able to come along and try them out for yourselves and see how you get on in comparison to our drivers just finished racing in the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final, and of course we'll start giving you information on next year's Le Mans Esports Series as well. Well, let's get back to the race and recap what the order is at the moment. We are on board with CMP, as we have been for quite a while in this race. They've managed to get themselves quite a lot of airtime through the fact that they've just been involved in so many battles constantly throughout the race. It's definitely a long shift that those guys have been putting in so far. We are still only, well, just about to approach, sorry, 2/3 race distance, so we are nowhere near finished just yet. But you can see the positions up at the top of your screen. Looks like Wildcats have unfortunately dropped back through his race. Advocatus just struggling a little bit to get off to a good start in this first one. MAD and Bellocci still out front. Baguette Racing in third place. They are currently the top three at the moment, but Baguette Racing into the pits.
Absolutely. So Baguette Racing in the pits, and so are SMP Racing. You can see there Baguette going past as SMP pull into their pit box. So lap 19 is the lap for strategy for quite a few of these teams. You can see there are a few congratulations there on your left side of screen as the SMP driver does make their way out of the car. So of course that's Sabatov Rusmamovic. So a great job there. You can see actually just managing to jump Williams Esports there as well. So Williams not able to hold that position through the pit stops. You can see rejoining. This is actually going to be a very tight battle because they're going to keep it simple, and CMP involved in their own scrap. Now comes SMP on brand new tyres, and Williams just following behind as well. So we could be on for a 4-car scrap if these guys can hold the pace that we know they have.
How big is, how dramatic is these tyre difference in this class, the early 60s class? Is it more dramatic than what you've seen in, say, modern prototype class, or less so?
It'd probably be a bit more dramatic, I would say, because of course these cars have much smaller tyre width, but they're much thinner tyres. There's not as much tread on them, so you're leaning on them a lot more during the corners, and of course you're scrubbing them a lot more during the corners as well. So that's all fully modelled in Forza Motorsport. So these tyres, if they're doing this long into the race, now on lap number 19, they will be feeling the pain, and SMP is about to feel the pain as well because they're about to lose one spot because that Shelby Cobra is closing rapidly. But we did see before that SMP Ferrari is not slow. We saw the other Ferrari struggling a little bit. Whatever SMP have done, they know how to hold it in a straight line.
Yes, they do. It's something that we've been surprised about. Well, there's the Williams Esports car in there. You can see at the bottom on the screen. And the them at the moment is Gary Mitchell. I spoke to Gary yesterday, feeling fairly confident they were coming into this one to do a good job for their team, the Williams Esports team. A big name within esports and ever growing. It's great to have them here along with some teams that have relation to teams that are of course involved in motorsport as a whole, in the likes of SMP Racing, Veloce, quite a big brand as well. We've got Mighty 38 who are being supported by the Jackie Chan DC Racing team, who are going to be fighting for victory in LMP2. And speaking about Williams Esports, they're going to be on the move. Gary Mitchell down the inside of the SMP Racing team, and that is a good move there from Williams. Standard move into Mulsanne.
Fantastic move there by Gary Mitchell, made the move stick, and that is all he needed to do to find his way past SMP. And we know the straight line speed of that Ferrari, he should be able to run away pretty easily as well. But it's worth noting, in that last round of pit stops, Baguette Racing did put Aurelian Mallet, one of the most successful drivers you will find on Forza, of course a 3-time Forza RC World Champion to his name. So very, very successful. And those that are in the top 2 positions, which is Mad Motorsport and Veloce Esports at the moment, I'd be a little bit worried. They've got the margin, but I would not want to have Aurelian Mallet behind me in a car, that's for sure.
Yeah, big name, isn't he, within the community? I think all of our viewers, if not most, will know of Aurelian. Now, just going back to that move, SMP Racing, I think they just need to get themselves saddled down here, because it looked like they were making a little bit of a mistake for Indianapolis. Sabitov Rustamovic has just jumped into the rig for them. And it's important, isn't it, to get settled down as quickly as possible when you jump in after a pit stop, especially with only 10 laps to go. They need to just get settled and hold position. They've lost a place, accept it, and now move on.
It's a very tricky skill to have, of course, and there can be a lot of nerves when approaching the car to join mid-race as well, because you could be involved in a battle pack, you could be involved in a scrap, and it's all down to you to hold that position. You could be tight on the exit, so if you are involved in a battle the second you come out of the pits, you can't just afford to get settled in. There's no opportunity there. You've got to be right on the money immediately, and SMP, unfortunately, just falling down the bar just a little bit. But Williams Esports was most certainly, as we see CMP just give me a little hello there to keep it simple through the forward chicanes. You can see the body roll, the Ford Cobra, or the Shelby Cobra there, through there. But it has to be said, they are closing on Mighty 38 at the moment, who I'm not sure if they're taking a pit stop yet or not in this current point in time. But regardless, Mighty 38 should be a little bit worried, because we've seen how quick these guys can be when they're not fighting each other.
I believe Mighty 38 has did catch up with them a little bit earlier. Oh, and CMP once again, just a quick reminder to look in the mirrors for Keep It Simple. CMP are there. It's a clear signal that they want to go after Mighty 38. So CMP are thinking ahead. They They know that if they catch Mighty 38, it's not just one position they're going to gain, it's going to be two. So patience here from CMP, it seems. That always a good approach to take into endurance racing. So definitely like seeing that, even if it was just a little bit of a tap or get away with that. We've got lots of adjudicators around the arena watching out for incidents, as of course we've got our race control, the staff, we've got our race directors are on the ball watching out for incidents, as well as track limit abuse as well. But keep it simple. Are they about to make a move of Mighty 38? Are they about to take that 5th place? Let's have a look as they head down Mulsanne. It's a long time before we get to that Mulsanne corner, but keep it simple, definitely in a good position to get into the top 5 positions here. Just behind, of course, we still have CMP. Let's not exclude them from this just yet. And we're looking back at Keep It Simple, who are getting closer and closer. Mighty 38 team, got to say, doing a brilliant job. They are a little bit hampered this weekend, and we'll talk about that as we get later into the event. Keep It Simple as they come through the Mulsanne curve are just waiting for that braking zone. It seems like they just maxed out on power there. They're just not able to close in despite the slipstream. But what about in the braking zone? No, Keep It Simple staying in behind for the time being.
Yeah, they are, and they wanted to get the traction there, wanted to get the run heading towards Indianapolis, but unfortunately just lit the rears up a little bit as well. So that's another opportunity lost for them. So struggling a little bit to make the move stick, but of course they're in the same car, so that it is all down to driver talent, all down to their right foot as well, making sure they can get the runs and make the passes stick. But of course Indianapolis is a pretty scary place to make a move anyway, so probably wanted to be a little bit safer anyway, especially when there's still 10 long laps around this Le Mans circuit to go. Of course this race is going by as quick as you imagine, but look at the body language of the cars. They throw it into Indianapolis, and in fact around the outside. That is an amazing move there by Keep It Simple. They've pulled it off on Mighty 38. That is probably one of the better moves we have seen all race long so far. That was fantastic. They just had so much more confidence, grip and ability to make that stick around Indianapolis. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, very opportunistic driver there, driving there from Keep It Simple. They were out of shape themselves, but were just able to control the rotation of the car a little bit better. Keep It Simple around the outside are now into 5th place. A just reward for their efforts in the last few corners. Mighty 38 down to 6th place, and they've got to be wary of CMP in the background as well. You can see our top 4 teams on the top of your screen. MAD still leading the way, but Keep It Simple are going to be under pressure themselves now. They may have just made that fantastic move, and what a fantastic move it was, but Mighty 38 are still there. CMP seem to be getting closer through the Porsche curves as well. So we're going to have a fantastic 3-way battle, hopefully all the way to the end here. And you can see the top 4 up in the distance as well.
Absolutely, and about that top 4, it's actually interesting because Kitty Crew, of course, were running in 3rd before that pit stop. They've come into the pits, done their driver change. They're now a 2.5 seconds behind Aurelien Mallet in that Baguette Racing team. So that's a change of positions through the pit stops. And Baguette Racing, of course, a very quick driver in that car at the moment, but Kitty Crew, we know how good that team is. We know they're going to be a contender all the way down to that 9th race in Le Mans. That could be a very interesting fight if Aurelien Mallet can't settle into this group too quickly.
They need to get settled down very quickly as they come through the Dunlop chicane. Let's run through some of the drivers we have out there now. So David Hock is out there for Mighty 38. Wildcats have Lewis Helena. Alex Harrison is in for CMP. Yuri Oki is in for Keep It Simple. John Hoyek is in for Tire Wall Racing. John, who South Korea region, but resides in San Francisco now, as we saw Keep It Simple off on the grass ever so briefly. James Baldwin yet to come out of the rig for Veloci. We said Sabitov Rustovovic is in for SMP, Aurelien in for Baguette Racing, Robin Bechter in for MAD. Then we have Felipe Roberto in for the Kitty Crew, Dai Lee is in for Advocatus, and Gary Mitchell in for Williams. So those are the drivers we have on screen at the moment, and Mighty 38 is that about to go down the inside of Keep It Simple, and this is probably going to be one of the longest overtakes you'll ever see, as we're only at the start of the Mulsanne Straight, and in fact that run didn't last very long, did it?
No, unfortunately not. Of course, they can change tyre pressures just a little bit, so maybe keep it simple. Just running a little bit more tyre pressure so the car doesn't have as much rolling resistance in the tyres. Just helps with straight line speed just a little bit.
So you think that may have been the cause of what we saw in the last lap with the Mighty 38 team getting a little bit out of shape, or more driver error?
I think more driver error. Stiffer tyre pressures will typically give you more lateral support in the high-speed corners, and those softer tyres, of course, give you more mechanical grip through the slow stuff. So I think just driver error, they were both sliding just on the absolute adhesion of grip, trying to get past one another. And Mighty 38 not able to make anything happen into Mulsanne corner this time around. But we saw what happened last time at Indianapolis, and now they've got a third party to join in as well in CMP.
Well, Mighty 38, just to say about them, they were supposed to have the 3 drivers that qualified through for this event, but unfortunately Sean Arnold was not able to make it to Le Mans this weekend, so they are running with just their 2 drivers, and they have had the regulation change just to suit them. Of course, the 2 drivers still here, still trying as hard as they can, and they're now going to have to do 12 hours each in that race, so their challenge has become very, very difficult indeed, and at the moment they are stuck in a 3-way battle for 5th place. Right in the middle of it they are, CMP behind, keep it simple just ahead. Mighty 38 doing very well under pressure here, of course. This is when you don't know whether to attack or defend, isn't it? You get stuck in the middle of a trio like this. It's hard to know what to do sometimes.
Especially when it's coming down to the final few laps. Of course, we're in the final third of this race, so it's going to be very, very tricky to find out just how they want to attack this. Of course, you can lead now, which is all well and good, but if you're not leading at the end of the 30th lap, then leading all that time was for nothing. You can see that they're pushing so hard through the Porsche curves, that really tight turn in before flicking it back to the right. Once again, you can see just how close. CMP really enjoying just going right behind the car in front, trying to put pressure. You can see, looking back now, just how much pressure they're trying to apply using every millimetre of road. And of course, track limits defined by the stewards is the white line or an extension of the curbs as well. So that was all legal, and just using every millimetre of road to try and get the run. Didn't pay off this time, but we've seen CMP pretty aggressive. So we'll see how they plan to make this move happen. You were saying whether you don't know whether to attack or defend. I think CMP are on full attack.
Yes, CMP certainly are. They can only gain and not lose anything as we head down the start-finish straight and up towards turn number 1. There we can see Mighty 38. We are now on board with them as we go up towards the Dunlop chicane. Oh, look at CMP behind, getting all out of shape. We've seen this a few times, haven't we? Drivers just taking more pace through that first corner, then tightening up the chicane. Is that something you see often?
Absolutely, because it gives you this nice long run all the way down to La Chapelle, so you can really get the speed of the car, you can really make the most of it. But of course, La Chapelle isn't too much of an overtake opportunity, so for some of these drivers, it's just a little bit of a different line they choose to take, and there's no real benefit. Occasionally you can make a move into La Chapelle, but it's not one you'll see often. Normally where you see moves is down this Mulsanne straight, and CMP finally has their opportunity at Mighty 38.
Well, down the Mulsanne straight we go, and things now could change again. Looks like Keep It Simple have just been able to break away. And it's that moment when you get on the Mulsanne straight, you look in your mirrors and go, thank God for that, because you now no longer have 2 cars right on your tail. So that's why it's so important, isn't it? The first section of the track here at Le Mans, particularly on the pre-90 layout, to get those first few corners right, so you have the gap down the Mulsanne straight. Well, of course, all our drivers here, all 36 drivers, are battling it out for victory at Le Mans. And guess what? Grim is with a winner of Le Mans.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'll be joined by a very, very special guest in the building. Please welcome Fernando Alonso.
Hello.
It's amazing for us to have you here. I know that these sorts of games are something you quite like. You enjoy motorsport games.
Yeah, definitely I do. I do like, I think esports in general, and yeah, the games that we have now, I think they are quite sophisticated, and you know, there are a lot of possibilities in this virtual world, and yeah, as we see now, I think there are a lot of attention to these kind of events. a lot of players that they are at an amazing level. So I think it's fun to watch, but it's also fun to get more and more involved on these kind of things.
This competition, we had 20,000 people applying to be here, 36 places. Now, you know what it's like competing at the very, very top of any form of sport. So what makes the difference between a regular player or a regular driver and someone like yourself and the people behind us?
Well, I think it's as in every I think aspect of life, is about dedication, it's about discipline, it's about training. A part of the talent that I guess every one of these 20,000 people, maybe they got some kind of talent. These 36, the last 36, they had something extra, and that something extra probably is determination and professionalism. That even if it's a virtual environment, you need to have that kind of attitude.
Now, throughout your career, you're not unused to sitting in sims and spending a lot of time looking at a screen and racing as well. How does this sort of competition compare to the sims that you race in and to the training you go through?
I think they are quite similar in a way. Definitely the professional simulators that Formula One teams they use, they are a little bit more sophisticated, and there are a lot of investment going behind that kind of simulators. But the usage of those simulators are quite crucial for a Formula One development trade for many months. So different concepts on front suspension, on different aerodynamic philosophies. You need to test it in the simulator before making it into production. So that's a little bit different concept of this eSports, that is pure competition, pure same circuit with the same car against another drivers, and that's quite more fun probably than the F1 simulators. But at the same time, I think it gives to every fan at home, or every fan that likes motorsport, the opportunity to have a real experience inside the car.
It definitely makes it much more accessible than some forms of motorsport where you need a few pounds in your pocket, don't you? So here at Le Mans, obviously you're here for another reason, but how important do you think it is to get esports into this arena?
I think it's very important. I think every big event like Le Mans should have parallel to the main event, a virtual competition, like this. I think the fans will embrace more the race. At home, it will have more attention. If you do this kind of competition in the middle of September, maybe the people are not talking too much about this Le Mans e-sport game. So I think doing it now in the week of the race is a plus, and is a benefit for everyone.
Yeah, and of course the ACO working with Motorsport Network to get this event here as well. When it comes to games, did you have an attraction to gaming, to motorsport games, or is it just that you love racing and so it's a natural parallel?
No, I like the games, and I have this attraction from very early age. I remember to play Formula One games when I was a go-kart driver. I remember to play Colin McRae, the rally game. So I've been always fan of motorsport games, and not motorsport, also football or basket or wherever. So it's a nice thing, a nice entertainment when you are at home. But as I said, to reach certain level like these guys they reach, you need something extra than that, and that's why you need to create these kind of events, these competitions to really see who has the extra talent.
Yeah. Now for myself, having followed you through Formula One and watching you do so well in Formula One over the years, and then moving on to Le Mans last year and what's going on this season with WEC, I think we're all the people behind have got our fingers crossed for you when it comes to the 24-hour race ahead. What tips, what pointers can you give to our 36 drivers here? Because to the people that don't know, they have got 20 hours over 20 hours in the seats behind. So they've got 24 hours of competition. It's a long time. 2 bits of advice.
Well, one's to be really focused. I think even when the things are calm, something unexpected will come. So you need to stay really focused, concentrated. You need to eat well, sleep as much as you can in the moments that you can, and drink. Keep hydrated, and Yeah, be calm. I think as far as I understood, they are changing cars, often. So the versatility on the driving style, it has to be extreme. Testing so many different cars in Le Mans. So I think they know what they do. They are professionals on this, and good luck to everyone.
So find your inner zen. Fernando, best of luck this weekend. Hopefully we'll see you as a WEC champion as well. Congratulations for everything so far. Big round of applause for Fernando Alonso. Best of luck to him. And back to our commentary team, because the race has been going on while Fernando's been here. Back to Chris and back to Bo.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Well, what an experience that was. What a moment for the Le Mans Esports Series to welcome, of course, the 2018 Le Mans 24-hour champion, Fernando Alonso himself. I think you can forgive us for missing a couple of laps of this first race. Fantastic to hear Fernando, the advice he had to give to the drivers and his experience of sim racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to take advice from someone, Fernando Alonso isn't the worst guy to take advice from. So he had some really good insights, and I think a lot of the drivers would have been listening in and just taking that advice. And I've seen a lot of drivers already just nick back into the back of the garage and probably just, all right, maybe we change this up, maybe we just do what Alonso says and try and organise our sleep schedule a bit differently. So, that's a fantastic opportunity for these drivers, and one I'm sure we're all learning from.
I was waiting to see if anyone actually just parked it down the Holstein Straight just to listen in for a while. But of course, everything can be watched back via Motorsport TV. So if you do miss anything over the next 24 hours, you can do so. Of course, all the streams going up on our YouTube channel as well, Le Mans Esports Series. These will be available to watch back there as well. So nothing will be missed over this next 24 hours. Fantastic guest to have there in Fernando Alonso. He, of course, was the Le Mans 24-hour champion last year. He may be again this year, but we're going to be crowning a 24-hour champion of our own in the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. Well, nothing changed in terms of the lead while we were away. It's still MAD Motorsport leading. The only change there might have been is the gap that they have to Veloci. The gap now stands at around 19 seconds. It really is growing, but Get Racing doing a fantastic job. Our overall pole sitters at the end of the 9 qualifying sessions yesterday, they are in 3rd place. This is really good performances by the Get. I mean, of course, they would have taken a lot of confidence from that qualifying result though. But when we went out for the qualifying session in race 1 yesterday, they were only 7th place. So, do you think it's just confidence has grown from the overall result, or they're now more comfortable with the equipment that they're using?
There's a lot of different factors that could be in as well. It could have been a different driver that set that qualifying time to who's actually racing here today. As we see a pass going on at the moment. Keep it simple up the inside. Contact made with Mighty 38, and CMP is going to take advantage. 2 in a single corner and leave them to fight it all out to themselves. So we'll see how this goes on into Indianapolis, but a great move there. Very opportunistic, but it's going to continue on for the battle behind. You can see Williams Esports also trying to buy their way into this battle. So out of nowhere, a 4-car scrap has emerged, and it's looking pretty good at the moment for Mighty 38 up the inside. But of course, Keep It Simple does have a fair bit of an overspeed at the moment, but he has to go the long way around the outside of Indianapolis. We saw the body language of the cars earlier. How is it this time? Not much better. All kinds of sideways. 3 wide into Indianapolis. Williams Esport up the inside. Contact with Mighty 38 bumping all the way down into Arnage. This is very aggressive driving, but still all nonetheless nice and fair. Williams around the outside, going to be fed to the tyre wall almost just about, and they're in the wall. Contact is made, and the stewards will be looking at that for sure against Mighty 38.
Williams are in the tyre wall, and they're going to be dropping down the field potentially as well. Fantastic scrap it was for a couple of the corners, but it's ended in tears for Williams, unfortunately. However, the show must go on, and it is doing so as well, with Keep It Simple and Mighty 38 continuing to battle away now as we head through the Porsche curves. Fantastic moves being shown there, and there will be more as well, I'm sure. Let's hope we don't have any other teams going into the barriers. I think Williams have got going again and remain in 8th place. They certainly haven't dropped any further positions than that, and they've only got a few laps to try and recover it. Let's see, is this Williams? It is. So they are under pressure now from SMP Racing. So a potential to go back even further here for Williams. How did you see that move? Just stuck on the outside, wrong place, wrong time?
I'm not so sure if it's wrong place, wrong time, because of course they did have the overlap. They were alongside and weren't quite given the room. Of course, that tyre wall does meet the circuit quite aggressively, but probably a little bit more room, in my opinion, could have been given by Mighty 38, but nonetheless, we'll leave that up to the stewards, see what they decide against Mighty 38. Of course, they have a number of different options awarded to them, whether it's a time penalty or even a stop and go penalty of a different length, which at Le Mans will be, at all circuits will take in a different place. At Le Mans will be taken on the outside of, the inside, of the final chicane, but of course, we'll leave that up to the stewards, see how they decide to adjudicate it, but nonetheless, could be damage on Williams' car, and Mighty 38 do continue holding that spot over Keep It Simple. But you can see Keep It Simple just applying the pressure where needed. They're just not doing anything too silly, picking their own battles, and they are now down into a two-horse race against Mighty 38 for that 6th spot, and some very handy championship points after the first round as well.
Yeah, of course, and points equals more advantage going into the final race. 1 point equals 1 second head start over the driver behind you. So every single position counts in this. Top 3 in races 1 to 8 going to get money as well before we have the bigger cash prizes going in towards race number 9. But we're looking at Keep It Simple in the black and white livery car there, chasing the orange and white car of Mighty 38. Down the Mulsanne straight they go. Plenty of time to sort out who's going to do the leading into the braking zone. You can see a CMP, not a huge amount of distance between the battle we are watching and SMP Motorsport. So the gap looks to be coming down just a little bit. Our top 4 are away and clear, but 5th place backwards. Certainly there could be some more changes here as we now go into Mulsanne corner. Are we going to see any more dramas? I think we may have used all the dramatic moments up in this first race. It's been absolutely hectic, even more so than we perhaps expected. But we go back on board then with Mighty 38, sorry, in fact it is Keep It Simple, who were just behind chasing down Mighty 38. Going to head up towards Indianapolis next, of course, another corner where it's all been going off, and then we'll go into Arnage where it ended in tears for Williams just a lap ago. Feels like such a long time ago that happened, considering what's happened between now and then. Mighty 38 under braking, look like they've got everything under control. Or did I speak too soon? I think I did. Mighty 38 just flirting with the gravel there, and I think Keep It Simple may be able to take advantage. Don't go around the outside there. In fact, well, Mighty 38 that lap, though, their approach into Arnage a lot different to what it was on the last lap. They gave Keep It Simple enough room and more to take that place.
Absolutely, there was a lot of room given there by Mighty 38, so clearly maybe feeling a little bit guilty after that previous lap, and we'll Keep It Simple. We'll take it every day of the week and run away with it. So a change of position there. We'll see if they can approach the cars in front as well. Of course, there is a very close pack of cars around this field, so we'll see if Keep It Simple can run up with CMP, who currently have one of their drivers in the car, and it's Alex Harrison who's in the CMP car. So we'll see how that pace difference does go, because we know Keep It Simple have a lot of pace. They're one of the favourites as well to take the outright prize. But Mighty 38, it's going to be very interesting. And in fact, we've just heard from race control a 10-second stop-go for forcing another car off the circuit. I personally do agree with that one, but they're going to have to take that penalty on the inside of the final chicane.
Yes, just took the words out of my mouth. There is going to be, right, the way stop-go penalties are going to work is as follows. There has been a zone created on the circuit, and that is where Mighty 38 are going to have to pull into. As Bo said, it is on the coming out of the Ford chicanes. There is the zone. Mighty 38 have entered it. The adjudicators will now be timing them, and once the adjudicators say it is good to go, they're going to go off and in a hurry. So Mighty 38, that's just ruined their chances of getting a decent result.
Absolutely, they've fallen down the order pretty dramatically after that. They were fighting for 6th place, they now have 6 upside down, it's a 9.
Yes.
So for Mighty 38,
their race has literally turned upside down.
you're not wrong, so for Mighty 38, that's a nightmare for them, but I have to say I do agree with the stewards on that one. I think that's a fair call, and I think they even knew it themselves, of course, with that fight with Keep It Simple leaving a lot more room. But nonetheless, working lap 26 at the moment, Mad still have the quickest lap of the race, and they still looked at the quickest race car as well. A 17-second lead over Loche Esports. They've looked flawless, it has to be said, in this first race.
Yes, they have. And well, that's kind of put an end to the battle we had there, of course, between Mighty 38 and Keep It Simple. It was great to see that Mighty 38, of course, can be no arguments had. With our adjudicators around the arena sent them straight into that stop-go penalty, and that has changed that battle. There will be more battles, of course, going on. This one between SMP Racing and Williams still continuing, and we will pick that up in just a second. But for now, we'll go back to Bryn, who has a very special guest with him.
Yeah, thanks. We just had a nice chat with Fernando Alonso. I've got another big star here from Motorsport. Zach Brown, great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Now, Le Mans, we've got the sunshine finally. It wasn't like that a few days ago, but you're topping up the town this weekend?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I think we're going to have a great 24 hours, and the kind of 24 hours has started now.
Yeah, absolutely. A big competition going on over our shoulders. We're midway through a race at the moment as well. Now, as chairman of Motorsport Network, you have direct involvement in this with Motorsport Games. So how important is it that Motorsport Network, as a network, have a gaming division?
Well, I think it's critically important. I mean, it's clear esports and gaming is now kind of the grassroots element of motor racing. I think it is very popular in geographies around the world, where it actually might be more popular than some of the racing itself. It puts a steering wheel in both men and women's hands, people of all ages. So I think it's just great that it's going to expose our great sport, whether it's Le Mans or NASCAR or Formula One, whatever that is, to a younger and create a bigger audience.
Global reach is such an important thing, particularly in 2019, moving into 2020 and beyond as well. And we see around here 20,000 people entered to try to get here to Le Mans. 36 have made it because they're the very best of the bunch. So do you think having gaming like esports within the network and out there in the wider world as well is going to improve motorsport as we move forward?
Oh, I definitely think it will. I think it's going to create a new audience, a very engaged, experiential platform. I mean, at Motorsport Games, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is bring experiences like Le Mans and get people to participate instead of maybe just watching it on television. And so it's, I think it's going to be really good for all of motorsports. It's so realistic now. You know, things have gone from being video games to, you know, true simulation. And what we have found is some of these drivers here, they can get the job done in the race car too. So it's, you know, it can be a training ground for the future.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. We have seen some drivers make that transition from this sort of driving behind us into real seat driving out on track. So this is something that it's a good proving ground for people. It gives them a taste of competition. It also gets them to understand a car. The only difference really is the balance of the car, because you don't get to feel it in the seat in this sort of system.
Yeah, you know, of course it's simulation, so it's not quite like being around Le Mans, but it's pretty realistic, and you know the lap times are similar, and the way you set up the cars. So I think, you know, today's modern day race car driver needs to be a part-time engineer as well, and I think that's the case in simulator and esports. So I think there's a lot of crossover and a lot of learnings.
We spoke to Fernando Alonso just a little bit earlier on about esports, about motorsports games and how it works really, and his involvement too. And he was saying with Motorsport Games, it's really crucial. He grew up playing games and then while he was karting as well, and it was a nice introduction. It got him really involved. For you guys, Motorsport Network as well, having this platform that you can have some form of control over must be crucial.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, you know, there's over 20,000 people that tried to be some of the finalists here today. So, you know, we've got a huge audience at Motorsport Network, the largest motorsport audience in the world, and we know a lot of those are gamers. So for us to create a gaming platform where we have the different series and participation, it's all about us providing to, you know, our fan, our consumer, the different ways they can kind of engage with motorsports, whether you want to read about it, whether you want to buy some merchandise, or whether you want to participate in gaming.
Yeah, and also there's a stamp really on this. If Motorsport Network are linking themselves to it, you have to sit up and take notice.
Well, yeah, it's the real deal. So here, everyone who's racing today, they've earned their place in. They've beat a lot of people. So it is the best of the best.
Yeah, and of course as well, big prize money, $100,000 is up for grabs here within the 9 races. Plus these drivers, the winning team, they get to go on the podium at Le Mans.
Yeah, pretty cool experience. I think going on the podium's worth $100,000. A lot of drivers have had to bring a lot more sponsorship to get on the podium. So I think this is a great event here, and I think it'll be a close competition, and the team that wins will have certainly deserved it. Hope they invest the money well and enjoy their time on the podium.
Absolutely, and a free trip to Le Mans as well is not bad. For you, for the rest of the day, for the weekend coming up, what have you got planned?
Just work. But I like my work. I've got a cool job. Just getting ready for the 24 hours. I've got 2 cars with United Autosports, so we put both in the top 10 in LMP2. We've got a great set of drivers, so like all teams, we're trying to be there in the 23rd hour and see what the last hour brings us.
Well, hopefully it'll be nice weather, or the sort of weather you want anyway. Good luck for this weekend. Thanks very much there to Zach Brown. And over to our commentators once again, Chris and Bo.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Great to hear from Zach Brown there. Of course, a big figure in getting this whole thing together where we are now. And great to hear Zach's thoughts on the importance of esports now.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people are beginning to wake up to how big esports is, how the potential is, and how it can also be involved in real-world racing. Of course, a lot of teams are starting to have sim drivers involved in the factory. Of course, we saw Zach Brown put together a program where he actually had a simulator driver helping out the real-world team. So there are connections there are parallels, and more people are waking up to that, which is fantastic to see.
And of course, a driver that Zach works with very closely, Lando Norris, always dips his toe into sim racing as well. He's actually part of a team, and him and the likes of Max Verstappen always getting involved in sim racing as well, and esports, which is great to see. But of course, the reason we are here and what we are going to go back to focusing straight on is the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final, and we are getting towards the end of our first race. There you can see our long-time race leaders, MAD Motorsport. They haven't quite led the whole race considering how hectic the battle was at the start, but pretty much MAD Motorsport, once they took the lead and built a bit of a gap, they never lost it. No mistakes from MAD Motorsport. It's been a fantastic start to the 24-hour for them. Super Final getting underway in very good style indeed for MAD Motorsport. An individual team as well, so that means of course the 3 drivers qualified through a qualifying event, but not together. They qualified from 3 different regions. Of course, the drivers coming from Australia, Mexico and Germany. We did talk, we touched on, I'm sure we're going to go into it in a little bit more depth, the difference between the individual teams and the teams, and would that make a difference? I think this has just shown it hasn't. I think the qualifying system has worked perfectly.
I think so, absolutely. They have looked very, very solid. All the individual teams have looked very, very solid, and I don't think there's a single team from the individual category that can't win outright. They can't fight these teams that know each other personally. So the likes of the Velocis, yes, they know each other, they work with each other quite a lot. There's still that individual team that can still take it all the way to the end and win this. And I think MAD in particular have really worked together quite well and have managed to, merge themselves into a team quite nicely. And right now the gap has come down ever so slightly between them and Veloci. I think they're just bringing it home.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the first race. Before we bring you towards the end of the race, let's hear more from SMP Racing. For you there, a little bit more detail about them. Wildcard entry this weekend. As we've been watching practice on the real circuit, we've been seeing the SMP Racing cars go round. They've had their drivers actually come over and speak to the esports team that they have entered. On the other side, the esports drivers have been over to go and see the cars that SMP Racing have entered this weekend. There is a huge connection between the two teams. They're not two teams, they are in fact just one team, and SMP of course entered this. They're hoping that they can get two teams on the podium this weekend. Great team, of course, they got a good chance this weekend in getting a podium in the LMP1 class.
Absolutely, they're a very competitive team. Of course, they've got their GTE car as well. So, very competitive team. They should have some very high hopes for the weekend, and rightfully so. Very, very competitive. And of course, the sim racing team are looking for a podium as well. I think they've all got a great chance of it. Of course, we're seeing on the screen at the moment their beautiful livery in that Ferrari, and of course, they've got a Ferrari and GTE in the real world as well. So, a nice little tie in, another connection there as well.
And like we said, it's not just SMP who are here and have an esports team here, but there is a link between Mighty 38 and Chicane DC Racing. I know that because I did ask them, did they wear orange socks to match their t-shirts on purpose? And they said, oh no, it was actually the team who gave those to us. So great to see that we have two big links there. And I really do hope by the time we get back next year, there's even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these teams do have tie-ins. Of course, we look at Williams Esports, of course, a very obvious tie-in there with Williams F1 team. And even Veloce Esports, they're a little bit more quiet on the front, but they do also have a connection with Sauber. And we think to Sauber, that gorgeous Sauber C9 that we'll be seeing later on in the Group C race.
Yes.
There's some great connections all throughout these teams, and I'm very sure, like you say, next year we'll have a lot more tie-ins.
We will indeed. There you can see the SMP Racing car. 8th place for them, and I've got to say that is a very good start indeed, considering where they were at the beginning of qualifying yesterday, because do believe me, they were just in a little bit of trouble. But SMP Racing have worked very, very hard, and they are now starting to make big progress. So could be ones to watch, particularly later into the event. There's our race leaders though, MED Motorsport. They've not put a foot wrong so far, as we said. Veloce, you can't quite see them at the moment because of the gap that MED have built, but Veloce are in 2nd place at the moment. Baguette Racing in 3rd. So the first of our money, our $100,000 prize pool, is going to be awarded to those 3 teams should they stay on the track for the final lap. Of course, we've got our leaders there, MED Motorsport, they will take 3,000, Veloce 2,000, and Baguette Racing 1,000. So straight into the pot, money in the bag early doors. It's not a bad thing at all, is it?
No, not at all. And I think all these teams will be very happy to have that money in the bag. And of course, Baguette perhaps a little disappointed because of course they were our pole sitters for this race. They had the best opportunity at the win. Of course, the Le Mans start mixed it up a little bit, and the Ferraris have looked extremely strong today. They made the fuel mileage work a lot better than they thought they would. And I think both of them are fully deserving of the win. Looking at the Veloce Esports car, not a scratch on it. Look at the Mad car, not a scratch on it. They've done a great job. They deserve to be where they're at.
They might have done even better than us this weekend. Let's tell them not to spend it all at once. I'll be expecting a drink later from them. But there is our 3rd place car, Baguette Racing. Very good chance for them to go and get a very good result. They've already proved that they adapted to this car between qualifying and the race. They were 7th when we did the race 1 qualifying. If you're getting a little bit confused about that, essentially we did 9 qualifying sessions. The best time from each session was put together to make a total time, a total qualifying time. But Baguette Racing in the first session we did yesterday was 7th. They've adapted very well. Clearly they're good in a racing scenario. Clearly they're very good with their tactics. They've got a good strategy.
Yeah, and strategy is such a big factor in this series, and it's going to keep playing in this through this entire 24 hours. We're going to keep talking about the strategy word, and it's a very large one. And in the end, I think a few of these races will be decided on strategy. Just the Ferraris this time were able to make it work, and the strategy didn't play into it too much, which is raw pace. And with Baguette Racing, they had the raw pace of all the Cobras. So you can see just how quick they are through this section. A lot more straighter than we see some of the other teams in the Shelby, of course. Baguette not really sliding the car around too much. It's a lot more stable, a lot more planted. Whereas we saw, I think with CMP and Keep It Simple earlier in the race, they were basically drifting their way through the corner. So different driving styles, and for Baguette Racing, good result, strong podium. and they'll be starting, unfortunately for them, 10th in the next race.
Yeah, well, of course, that'll be a bit of a challenge, but better for us, isn't it? It's going to be very entertaining. We've seen how close the racing is. What happens when we put the leaders to the back? Of course, the leaders of the championship, the Get Racing, as you said, are going to be put down the back of the field, and the next race is going to be Ford versus Ferrari, so do stick around for that. We're going to see the Ford GT, the 1966 model, go head to head with the 1967 Ferrari Spa 330. It's going to be a fantastic race, that one. But we are on to the 30th and final lap of our first race, which will bring us 2 hours into our 24-hour stretch. And MAD Motorsport, as we've said, fantastic start for them. They're going to be very happy, perhaps a little bit nervous at the moment. I can see 2 of the drivers just watching over. Of course, in the car at the moment they have Chicane Butler, so we've got Mariano over there and Robin just getting themselves settled, and I'm sure holding up a pit board to say all going good. Just bring it home. You can see our social media down the bottom right of the screen there, our Twitter handle. If you want to get in touch with us, do give us a shout. Let us know if you're enjoying the coverage so far. Has any teams surprised you in a good or bad way? What have you thought of the racing? What are you looking forward to most? We've got 8 races coming up after this, so the racing is going to not stop. It's going to be going all the way through till 11 o'clock tomorrow. That doesn't look like 2 drivers that are about to win $1,000 each, but maybe that will change when they make it across the line. Let's see.
Of course, Robin Betker there, the driver that was standing on the left. Of course, he did the first few laps in this car. He got the car into this position, and Chicane Butler, of course, had a very simple job in just bringing the car home. And he hasn't just brought the car home, he's also extended his lead until his last few laps, where he has just backed it off, conserved the car, saved the tyres, and make sure that they secure a fantastic opening to the race. The gap to Veloce has only come down by about 4 seconds, so there's no worries there at all. In fact, Veloce probably also backed off the pace as well, with a significant margin back to 3rd, and our podium looks to be fairly locked in, assuming any little issues that may happen on the final lap. But they've all driven a great race, and I think they should be very proud of this first result.
Well, Mariano hasn't been in yet, because he is the 3rd driver, and if he's starting the next race, he's going to have a difficult first few laps going off the back of the field. MAD Motorsport coming into Indianapolis now and heading up towards Arnage next, the right-hander. And that is a corner where we have seen 1 or 2 incidents so far in this race. Mighty 38 and Williams locking horns there, with Williams ending in the tyres and Mighty 38 ending with a penalty. So we've seen a penalty already over the 24 hours. There could be a few more, especially as we get nearer to the end. But other than that one penalty, I haven't really seen anything to say that this hasn't really been a clean race.
Yeah, it's been a very clean race. I think all the drivers have taken what the stewards have said, and it's been very nice. We actually see Williams actually managed to, I believe that might be a change position there on the final lap there with the driver they are fighting. So Williams making their way up, and I did see they were closing very quickly on Keep It Simple, and it looks like that move has indeed changed. But we do have to keep our attention on MAD Motorsport. What a job they've done. They've absolutely nailed the strategy. They had the pace from the front, and with just a few corners to go.
We are indeed. Williams have had a good recovery there, as you said, back up for 6. But it's been all about MAD Motorsport. 2 drivers about to go mad, perhaps, with money in the bank already as they come up towards the Ford chicane. Just 1 more corner to go then, and MAD Motorsport are going to take the first of 9 race wins. Across the line we go, and that is the race win. MAD Motorsport win race 1 of the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final, and that is a very happy Chicane Butler in the rig. Coming here across the line in 2nd, they've done a very good job. Veloce Esports take 2nd place, and finishing in 3rd place, it'll be when they come out of the final corner. We may have to wait a little bit, but it will be Baguette Racing who will finish in 3rd. David Kelly brought the car home for Veloce Esports. There you can see MAD Motorsports, but Baguette Racing will round out our top 3 for this first race. And there you can see our MAD Motorsport drivers Here is SMP Racing. Sabitov Rustamovic is going to come across the line for them. You can see the positions across the top of your screen there. Fourth place was the Kitty crew. They've done a very good job in this first race. Then CMP, Williams, Keep It Simple, SMP who come across the line now. And then we have Mighty 38, Tyre Wall, Wildcats and Advocatus. What a way to get the event underway.
That was a fantastic first race. I think all the drivers were going to be relatively happy with that, apart from maybe the Jota car and also maybe the Williams Esports car, which found itself in the Iron Arch tyre wall. But a great way to start the event, and unfortunately for the drivers, still a long way to go.
But now, of course, we do that thing where we get into race 2 and we reverse the grid, essentially. We reverse the championship standings. At the moment, of course, our race winners, MAD Motorsport, picked up 12 points for the win. We go all the way down to 1 point for 12th place. But they're now going to have to start the next race from the back of the field.
No, it's going to be very interesting, and the first laps could be a little bit crazier, of course, because we do have some very quick cars at the back. But nonetheless, these drivers are all smart. They'll play their cards safe, and we should have a cracking race 2 coming up.
Race 2, let's just reflect on it quickly. It's going to be Ford versus Ferrari. You looking forward to that one?
Absolutely. I think they're two gorgeous cars. We've got the Ford GT40 in there, which I would argue is one of the best looking cars that's ever raced in Le Mans. So I'll personally be supporting that car just a little bit, but nonetheless, there are two great options. You can't do any wrong.
And talking about this, first race, now we've seen for the first time all our 12 teams in action. Any surprises for you in a good or bad way?
Mad Motorsport, I think they're not too much of a surprise, but very, very impressive. I would say they nailed the strategy from the start. They were very, very clean, consistent. Disappointment, I would probably have to say, is Williams. Of course, they had that incident earlier in the race. They did recover the 6th, but of course, they were the car that qualified 5th for this race at the start. So they'd fallen back anyways. They didn't get the start in particular. I think they were the biggest loser from the Le Mans start. They actually fell 5 spots in the first lap. So for Williams, we know they're a quick team. They'll bounce back without a shadow of a doubt, but not the start they were looking for.
Yeah, and they've got 8 races to do so, haven't they? I'd say teams to watch out for. I did like the look of SMP in that one. They did move forward pretty well in that one, but Veloci likewise. They did very, very well. We didn't really expect it at one point in the race, but they just charged away in second place without anyone fighting them.
Yeah, we saw in the first 5 laps that they were actually falling back quite a lot, very slow on a straight line. But then James Baldwin, who did that first stint, brought it back, had a really good run, got the car in a second, and then of course Sauber Davis, his gamer tag is, managed to just bring it home, and a good result there. SMP, they had a really good car, probably didn't use it as much as they could have, but from where they qualified, starting last, it was going to be tough. They moved forward, that's what you've got to do.
And well, CMP, Tyre Wall, Kitty Crew, all teams we saw on a regular basis battling away.
Yeah, it was fantastic, wasn't it? We saw some great scraps. Of course, they were the guys that decided to go full wide into a lot of places, which in endurance racing, I don't recommend full wide. They tried it anyway, and they all made it out alive, so credit to them.
And I've got to say, one disappointment, I think, in the early stages, Wildcats, they were 3rd when we did race from qualifying yesterday. They didn't really have a good race there. They just dropped, they were in a good fight for a while, but they dropped down to about 10th place by the end.
Yeah, they could have been a bit of a disappointment for this round, but you have to remember the qualifying structure, it's over every round, so maybe this was one round they weren't ever really focusing on. It was always just get through the event, give us a good start for race 2 where they might have a much better car, and they could be very competitive for there. So disappointment for race 1, race 2 they should be able to turn around.
And race 2 will be coming up very shortly. It's going to be on the same circuit. We're going to be doing Ford versus Ferrari, 2-hour race, but for now we're going to head down to Bryn to wrap up race 1.
Yeah, thanks very much there, gents. I'm here with, they're not showing it, all their cards very close to their chest, but very happy team. Congratulations, the first winners in the Le Mans Esports final, the big one. Well done.
Thank you.
Is that all? What was it like? What was it like in the race? First of all, over here, Robin.
The thing is, I felt very comfortable in the car and this combo because I practiced it a lot, and I knew already in qualifying that my pace compared to others is really insane. So I took my stint as long as possible, 22 laps, to pull a gap of 20 seconds, and then we just took it home.
Yeah, you absolutely did take it home. Come to you in a second, but if we go down here, so you didn't have any major involvement when it comes to sitting in the chair for this particular race. How was it for you watching on?
Oh, I was dying inside because it was pretty I don't know what to say, because my feelings inside and watching them two racing is like, oh man. So we prefer, well, I prefer not to race this one because this is a weak car for me. So our strategy was that let Box run the most and then Bottle finish the race. Yeah, and so let Box start and then go out in the first place, gain more gap, the most gap as possible, and then Bottle finish the race.
Well, we'll have to watch you when you're in the car next time round. But for yourself, having to bring it home, the last couple of laps looked a bit tense.
Yeah.
A fanfare, the flags of the various nationalities represented, scouts, officials, the public out in force, everything's in place for the 28th edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, June the 25th and 26th, 1960. The event starts at 4 in the afternoon on the dot. In the absence of Sterling Moss, injured a week earlier at the Belgian Grand Prix, it's Jim Clark who's the first leader. But watch out for Maston Gregory, who's on fire. The American, driving his Maserati Cameradi, overtakes 20 cars on the first lap to move into the race lead. Gregory keeps pushing hard from there, to the point where he had a lead of more than a minute at the end of the first hour over a host of charging Ferraris. But there was drama at the second hour of the race. The Ferraris, all of whom are trying to keep pace with the Maseratis, run out of fuel. Incredible but true. The 9 of Hill and Von Trips and the 12 of Scarfiotti and Rodriguez are already out of the race. Fortunately, Jean Debien in the 11 was just able to reach the pits. He led soon after following mechanical problems for Gregory and his Maserati. They'd lose more than an hour to that. A crazy start to the race in keeping with the legend of the 24 hours. Then the storm breaks. That's all that was missing. Mares and Ginter managed to get through, but the Ferrari of the Belgian national team goes off. It's worth asking whether Ferrari were under a bad sign. Night's falling, and the Ferrari of the Belgians Jean Debien and Frère still leads in front of that of Ricardo Rodriguez. The final Maserati drops out with engine problems, and at 5:30 in the morning the Jaguar Type D of Écurie Ecosse dropped out, marking the end of the prestigious story of that car at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. When day breaks, we see the wreck of the Maserati number 24, at the wheel of which Maston Gregory had made that barnstorming start. The Ferrari number 11 out in front at 8 in the morning. It's no longer raining. They're 5 laps clear of another Ferrari, that of Ginter and Mares. There's no real suspense anymore, and Ferrari seem to be on course to renew with winning ways after their defeat in 1959. As for the DB number 48, it's the leading French car in the standings with Leroux and Armagnac. They win on the index of performance, while on the index of thermal efficiency the honours are claimed by Lotus. The finish line is near, and those doing the official timings are concentrated to the max. Olivier Gendebien is preparing. He has the honour of the final stint in the leading Ferrari. Paul Frère stops and leaves the wheel to his compatriot. Two Belgians leading the 24 Hours of Le Mans is obviously a first. The winners, the Ferrari 250 TR 5960 number 11, the Works Ferrari driven by Olivier Gendebien and Paul Frère, who would retire as a driver after this to devote himself to his work as a journalist. They covered 314 laps, a little more than 4,200 kilometres. They finished 4 laps in front of the Ferrari of Pilet and Rodriguez, and it was the 4th win for Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The 29th edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, June the 10th and 11th, 1961. Olivier Gendebien, the defending champion, is there, of course, so too Sterling Moss, in conversation with his friend, the journalist Dennis Jenkinson. The two won the Mille Miglia together in 1955 in a Mercedes. The pre-race is also marked by some motorised parades. The weather conditions, far from perfect. It's grey and cold, and it spits with rain frequently, but the start will be given with the track pretty dry. 11 Ferraris at the start. We expect another triumph for the Italian constructor after that of the year before, but who knows? In any case, it's 4 in the afternoon, and away they go. What a start from Jim Clark in his Aston Martin number 5. An explosive start from Clark, and he leads during the first lap. At the end of the first lap, no miracles for Aston Martin. The Ferraris of Richie Ginter and Phil Hill are out in front, while Pedro Rodriguez in the Ferrari of North American Racing Team number 17 is also starting to show up well, and it's the Mexican who leads at the end of the first hour. At 6 in the evening, the rain invites itself to the party and the track becomes damp, and sure enough, we start seeing a few cars going straight on and missing their braking points. A terrible accident for the Austin Healey of Ecurie Cos, driven by Bill Mackay. And an even more awful image as we discover the driver unconscious. Fortunately, his condition soon improved, and a broken arm was his main injury. A pit stop for the first leaders, the Aston Martin 5 of Clark and Flockhart, this car now running around about 10th. At mid-race, the standings as follows. The Rodriguez brothers are leading from Gendebien and Hill, then Meres and Parks and Ginter and Von Trips. 4 Ferraris in the 4 leading positions, but the situation's very interesting as it's a private Ferrari leading from 3 Works ones, and that's maybe not what was expected. A stop too for the Ferrari 10 of Olivier Gendebien and Phil Hill, a very complimentary team, and the Belgian hands over the wheel to the American. We can sense now that their experience is going to be enough to hold off the hard-charging Mexicans. The Rodriguez brothers give it all they can, but sadly, 2 hours from the finish, they're betrayed by their engine. At 21 and 19 respectively, Pedro and Ricardo Rodriguez were heroic but unfortunate at this 29th edition, and it means victory shouldn't escape the clutches of the Ferrari number 10. The leading car crosses the line at quite a pace. Victory for the Ferrari of Olivier Gendebien and Phil Hill. They covered 333 laps and beat their main rivals by 3 laps. It's a Ferrari 1-2-3 out in front, with Maserati and Porsche further back in the top 10. It's a 5th win here for the Scuderia. Olivier Gendebien scores his 3rd Le Mans win in 4 years and becomes the co-record holder with Wolf Barnato and Luigi Chinetti. As for Phil Hill, this was his 2nd win in the Sarthe, as these two drivers had already won together in 1958. Above all, Phil Hill became the only driver to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the F1 title in the same year. The 24 Hours of Le Mans, and you don't prepare for the event just any old how. Driving at nearly 200 kilometers an hour for 24 hours is a tough assignment on a testing circuit. All of the corners, Mulsanne, Tertre Rouge, Arnage, Maison Blanche, can be the bête noire of the drivers. Gérard Leroux, one of the champions from the René Bonnet team, invites us to discover the track's difficulties with him.
Sortie complètement à l'extérieur. Je coupe au changement de revêtement. 3, 2 et première à l'entrée de Mulsanne. Complètement à l'intérieur. Je glisse à l'extérieur complètement. Je remonte mes vitesses. Sur le petit bout de ligne droite. Seconde à l'entrée. Seconde dans Indianapolis. Complètement sur la gauche. Déporté à ras de l'herbe.
And now the start. 49 cars opposite the pits, and as always, the race to the machines. The engines haven't warmed up, and yet they're being stretched. As for every driver, the number one problem is to get away from the field as quickly as possible and avoid any comings together. This year, the big star in the race is the Rover BRM with a turbine engine. It's racing only for glory, not for a position in the standings, and makes it through to the end at 173 kilometers an hour on average. The Ferrari number 10 of Pedro Rodriguez and Roger Penske, that set off from pole, soon loses any illusions of glory. A pity, as it had improved the lap record. Other strong emotions follow, like the accident there for Roger Masson, flipping after sliding. On it goes with the Maserati number 2, leading for now, but not for long. People are sliding around all over the place as if they were driving on ice, not a racetrack. The fuel tanks overflow sometimes, and fuel on the track makes it all the more dangerous. It's so hard to avoid being caught out, and so many drivers lose control of their cars. It doesn't stop the race from continuing. Fortunately, most of the competitors escape relatively unscathed, apart from one. The Brazilian Bino Hans died in his car that had caught fire. Of 49 cars at the start, only 13 make it through to the finish. It's the Ferrari number 21 of the Italian Scarfiotti and Bandini who win the event. They cross the line, followed by a group of 5 other Ferraris, the constructor triumphing in this 24 hours of Le Mans. 6 cars in the first 6 positions. The average speed for the event has been beaten. Ferrari seem unbeatable in the major endurance events.